the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, my lovelies. Good morning to you. I know you're having to rub the sleep out of your eyes, aren't we all? But it looks like it's set to be quite a glorious Saturday, at least from the lofty heights of Talk Towers. If you can see this sort of angelic orangey glow on the side of my face. No! Oh, my goodness. I was just talking about that angelic glow on the side of my face and the lovely sunrise. And there's the tech op putting the blind down. Watch the glow go. Oh, and it's gone. Never mind, don't you worry, that angelic glow on the side of my face will come back because I'm joined in the studio by the gorgeous, erudite, alien, all the way from Australia, Mr. Will Kingston.
Quasi-legal migrant, I prefer to be called. Alex, welcome, thank you. Dream Team's back. I'm very excited.
I know, and we know that you're legal because I don't think anybody can get a dinghy all the way from Australia over to the shores of Dover. And we've got so much to talk about today. We still live in misery, don't we? Turbulent times, the protests outside migrant hotels, as was so predictable, popping up around the country now. So are we going to have to brace ourselves for a summer of unrest? And also, I want to ask you guys a couple of things today. So I want your views on whether you're about to go out and join the insurrection. I'm not condoning it or encouraging it. Of course I'm not. But, you know, how safe do you feel living in your community? Now you have all these migrant hotels potentially being shut down and the population of those hotels aren't being sent home. They're being scattered around all the various communities of the United Kingdom, given houses. Sir Keir Starmer says, we've got lots of those, don't we? We've got plenty of houses for everybody. No, you don't. You don't have houses for the Brits, do you? Ah, but you can, like, hand them out to whichever Tom, Dick and Harry or Mohammed Jamal or Asif
not
has
many,
come from.
not many Tom, Dick and Harrys.
Not many Tom, Dick and Harrys over there in Afghanistan and Syria. But also, you know, Jeremy Corbyn, he's set up that new party, your party, but not your party, because it's not going to be called your party, and it's definitely not my party. But he's going to put it out. He's so democratic. He's putting the name of his party out to a public ballot, which means only one thing, doesn't it? It's going to be called Party McPartyface because, you know, that's the way the Brits roll. What do you think it should be called, though? Don't say Jezbollah. We've heard that one before. It's great. I like it. It's getting a bit tired now. I want some fresh comedy material. The Fruit and Nut Party, I know, because of Zara Sultana. Yeah, we've heard that one as well. But I get you thinking, caps on, what should Jeremy Corbyn and Zara Sultana call their new party? So much to discuss today, just as the Don touches down in Scotland, and as predicted, the usual loony lefties are up there protesting his arrival. Meanwhile, did you know Kamala Harris is arriving in the Cotswolds for some big society wedding? Bill Gates' daughter is getting hitched to some equestrian from Britain, so they've sort of basically hired out an entire Cotswold village, it seems, and filled it with SUVs and, you know, men with walkie-talkies, and the locals aren't that happy about it.
I wonder whether you'd prefer illegal migrants or Kamala Harris in your local community. It's a bit of a toss-up, isn't it?
I know. Which one would you rather have living next door? I mean, they're both mad.
Tough one.
Tough one. Anyway, yeah, so if you've got thoughts and feelings and opinions that you would wish to share with us today, we want to hear it. Roll up and chuck in your opinion. 03444991000 is the number to call if you want to chat to Will and I in the studio. He's already, without me even having to nag him, he's already offered himself up for the whole 4 hours.
Offered him... oh, yes, to be here. Yes.
What did you think I meant?
Never mind, we won't get there. It's too early. And we don't want to get...
This is like the big breakfast bed, isn't it? I'm like Paula Yates right now. You know, the tension in this room, you could cut it with a knife.
Very much so. No, I'm incredibly excited.
Good. I'm pleased to see that.
Although, geez, this coffee is awful. You would think Rupert Murdoch could afford half-decent coffee, but no, apparently not.
It comes from a machine. What do you expect?
Yeah, well... That is true, but still...
Actually, I don't have my usual cup of tea, but that's okay, because it will be en route. And I always nick the tea bags from the green room, because the tea bags up here, it's some sort of typhoon nonsense. something without any flavour. But downstairs, where the fancy people go, where we used to have our TV studios, so they still welcome in sports stars to do stuff with Talk Sports and musicians to do stuff with Virgin. They have good tea bags down there.
Yeah,
very good tea bags.
They're probably worth more than your annual salary.
They're probably worth more than I get paid per show, to be honest. But don't you worry, because charity starts at home, and I'm here for you guys, and I expect you guys to be here for me as well. So don't hesitate to text me, WhatsApp me, leave me a voice note, phone me, tweet me, do whatever you want to me, because digitally, this is just getting worse. I don't know what's going on. I don't know whether it's late night broadcasting or really early morning broadcasting at this point.
It's a new genre. I like it.
It is a new genre, a hybrid. Look, we've already got a message about what Jeremy Corbyn should call his party, the Yawn Party.
The yawn. As in boring?
I guess so, yeah. The yawn spelled that way.
I don't want to disagree with our listeners so early, but I think this will be incredibly entertaining. I can't wait. I cannot wait for the laughs that your party, which I'm just going to keep calling it, will give us over the next few years if they last that long. It's going to be great.
I want to give that man a sort of, pocket watch or something out of delight, because let's see all the things he's done. He's managed to create a centrifugal force to drag the Muslim vote away from all the people who are actually kind of probably a bit weird and dangerous. Yeah. The sort of, the pro-Gaza, a lot of like, no, we need to have, cousin marriage. It's like, no, make
no mistake, I think this party is dangerous, but it is all relative. Sorry, go on.
Exactly. I find it less dangerous than the alternative. It also is going to split that left-wing vote, isn't it? Which is great. It's like, oh, bye-bye, Labour. Yeah. Good luck now.
Well, I think the thing which you've got to... and are we starting to just riff on the news yet, or do we have to...
We're riffing on whatever we like.
Wonderful. I think that this party is the modern left in its purest form. If you look at it, it is an alliance between old-school communists, identity politics warriors, and Muslims. And the only thing that binds them together, but it's a powerful thread, is this hatred of Western civilization and a desire to turn it down.
Party.
Because if you were just a casual politics viewer, you'd go, well, what does a queer eco-feminist have in common with a hardcore radical Muslim? It seems a very odd
combination. Jeremy Corbyn!
Yeah. Well, and you go, the one thing is they are united in a desire to tear down the United Kingdom, to tear down its history, to tear down its values, to tear down what it stands for. And that's a very powerful thing to bind a group together. So I don't think they should be underestimated, because if you look across the world now, you're seeing these types of modern leftists. Mamdani in New York, that Somalian guy in Minneapolis. This is a global movement. So whilst I think it is a gift for reform, it is also very much a sad reflection on where the modern left is.
I was saying this just the other day, because it is basically, what you're saying, it's sort of like pure titrated cold press communism, isn't it? Which is a strong tasting kind of thing to sup on. But I was saying the other day, when you look at the madness of the policies in the United Kingdom, net zero, motability, you get a free car because you can't have a dump. The welfare state, as mad and big as it is and as bloated as it is. And then this, the global socialism, if you've come from some war-torn, flea-ridden hellhole, don't worry, have a 5-star hotel, go out on the rob, work illegally, rape people up, that's all good by us, we're going to look after you. Yeah. And I'm like, didn't the West spend decades wanting to put, lasers in space to fight the evils of communism? And then something happened after the Berlin Wall came down. We're like, oh, yay, let's go for that then, shall we? That looks like a good idea. No, it's not. If I'd been in a coma, right, if I'd been brought up in the 60s and 70s, and then, got hit over the bonce by a falling brick and went into a coma and woke up now, I'd be like, oh, we didn't win the Cold War then, did we? Yeah. Communism happened. Yeah. It's mad.
Well, we got complacent because we won on the economic side. We thought that, kind of liberal capitalism has won, so we can take our eye off the ball. But really just the game moved into the cultural realm. This is why so many people call this sick brand of politics cultural Marxism, because it takes all of the economic style of Marxism, but then it puts it into the cultural arena. And that's what we're facing now. And it's an incredibly worrying trend. I initially thought we were getting on top of it when Trump was re-elected, but unfortunately, you're seeing that this sick ideology will continue.
I'm laughing every time you say sick, because there's something nice about it in the Australian accent.
Sick, mate. Sick, mate.
Sick.
And I'm not talking about, the good sick, the fully sick bra type of sick, which, you might hear the kids say.
A sick bra? Is that, a woman's been on a night out in the back of the taxi?
No, it's what you said, the kids said. Instead of saying bro, maybe this was an Australian thing. You'd say bruh. Or, in any case, it is a troubling ideology, but nonetheless, a troubling ideology which will ultimately serve the greater purpose of putting a reform party into government.
We're Come on the right. Loads of messages coming in already. We haven't even properly dug into the news. We haven't touched the newspaper. We're just riffing on anything right now.
Huzzah.
Here we go. Morning, Alex. Looking forward to a few hours of common sense. Hope your breakfast is on its way. Do you know, I'm being very good today. Look at this array. It looks like some sort of Special K advert. I've got all these red fruits that I'm going to be scoffing. And Will is already on duty to look out for pips and skin between the teeth.
I will not be announcing pips and skin between the teeth.
Only during the advert break.
No, the comedy potential will be just too great.
Oh, what? You want me to have
it'd be great. Yeah.
Okay, so you're on duty then, if you're watching on YouTube, to announce whether there's pips and skin between my teeth. Call Corbyn's party Labour lefty-overs, says Bill in Cheshire.
Good, like it.
Liked it, yeah. Alex, my lovely, Corby's new party, old dried fruit.
Yep.
I like this. This is good. Steve from Middlesbrough says, how about Shamas for the Jew-hated General's party name? The Third Left Party. I like that.
Yep.
Because, I'm guessing Andy on Suffolk is riffing over the Third Reich there as well.
Yeah.
This is the mad thing. All those people who call everyone Nazis are basically Nazis.
That's exactly right.
It's always how it works. Nan in Wales. Nan, is your name Nan or are you a Nan? Are you my Nan? Nan in Wales. I thought all my grandparents were dead, but no, I've got Nan in Wales. Alex, the Jezbollah and Sultana party could be called the Current Buns.
The Current Buns. Oh, as in current riff on the... Oh, that's quite clever. You know, current fruit. Is it current fruit?
Oh my goodness, Tech Op has just said that he's got a brilliant one, the Democrats instead of the Democrat. I love that. Salute you, even though you have shut that blind. But salute, I know, I'll get the lighting all off. It makes me feel more like a human when I can see outside. It's like being in a Gazan tunnel. Morning, Alex. I was just wondering if in France they have the same problem as we do in the UK with immigrants sexually assaulting and harassing their women as we do here. And are there any figures to substantiate it? Thanks. Alex, love your show, says Ellie from Swindon. All roads lead to Swindon. Look at that. The blind is open. I know, it does feel like that. It's like, morning is there. Sunshine. France really do have even more problems than we have. As a French speaker, I often follow the French news. And what they've got, and in Belgium as well, is this thing called loverboy gangs. Which is basically they're immigrants there. They're basically like grooming gangs, but they work as a pack and they'll sort of coerce a 14-year-old girl by buying her alcohol and chocolates and then say, come on, hang out with us in the woods. And then they gang rape her. And it's called the Loverboy gangs. And no, they've got big old problems in France. In fact, actually, there were statistics out. Ellie asks, are there numbers to back this up? And I'm going to have to Google this during the advert break. But there was at one point, because they did a big documentary on this kind of stuff, there were statistics out about sexual assaults and rapes by the Eiffel Tower, largely of tourists, and it basically is the usual suspects, the vast majority.
Yeah, look, this raises a broader point, and it's one that is infuriating, and that is we now know, to a degree of statistical certainty, that there are some ethnicities and cultures that commit higher proportions of crimes than others. Where the Centre for Migration Studies or Control has done good work on this. You're going to see the official government data later in the year. Data. Yeah, everyone in the UK hates that. I always wonder, sorry, pause that. I always wonder, because data should be the way that British people say it, you know, kind of that R sound, but I don't know why you say data. That sounds more American to me. Anyway,
there you go. If you're an etymologist, please let us know what you believe.
Anyway, pause that for a second. We know that Afghans are at least 22 times more likely to commit sexual assaults.
I mean, this is it. You know, when people talk about, well, we need statistics to prove the point, I'm like, isn't it blimmin' obvious in their own country women have to dress up like they're sort of, you know, for Halloween or something, and if they don't, they're sort of stoned to death. And it's like, do we need statistics on whether these men are misogynistic?
Yeah, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to know that if you come from a barbaric, medieval, third world culture that has a particular attitude towards women, you are more likely to carry those attitudes into the United Kingdom. You don't suddenly forget that stuff when you get onto the beach of Dover. And yet, you hear people like Jess Phillips. On another station that shall not be named the other night, I was debating with Bill Rammell, and he said that there is no evidence to suggest that different ethnicities or cultures commit crimes at different rates. And apart from the fact that that is a lie, you are absolutely denying reality if you can't see the common sense explanation.
But also people like that How is it, why is it that they are so warped, that they're so twisted, that they would rather cover up reality, con themselves into creating a new truth to protect a load of, like you said, barbaric men who have no right to be here, instead of protecting the women of your country? What sort of sick person, what sort of absolute sociopathic psycho thinks that is the way forward in life and being on the right side of history? Like, come on!
I have an answer for you.
Oh.
Because I've thought about wonderful. And I've thought about this a lot, because sometimes I wonder, are they lying or are they genuinely so warped in their thinking? Bit of column A, bit of column B. But the fact is, multiculturalism is the guiding religion of the modern left. It is how they define themselves. It is their worldview. It is essential to their being.
Their sense of self-righteousness.
It's their sense of self. And this is the thing. If you actually attack someone's religion, you're attacking who they are. And so when you say this stuff, there's almost this mass cognitive dissonance that takes place that says, if I have to believe this reality, if I believe that this is true, I'm literally disowning my religion, and they cannot bring themselves to do that.
So
they will create an alternative reality to try and protect their sense of self. It is that deeply embedded in them.
I mean, this is it. It is a religion, because throw in column C, which is the one that I often point at, which is if you want to get to the upper echelons in media, other than in talk towers, or if you want to get to the upper echelons in sort of legacy politics or big corporate finance, whatever it may be, or you want to become the headmaster of the school and you don't want to be, ostracised in the staff room, you have to do the whole tug your forelock, bow down to diversity, wear a rainbow lanyard, do the critical race theory course. And so you have to sort of like indoctrinate yourself and be part of that sort of, brainwashing exercise, so to get up the greasy pole. And so when people get to the top, they have sort of had to absorb so much of this stuff for so long that it's like it's Stockholm syndrome. They just cannot see outside of it.
Well, a couple of things. Number one, and I'd be interested to get the thoughts of listeners here, I feel this is changing. And I think it may only be in the last 6 months, but I feel there's a shift in the public sentiment.
Hugely.
And I think people are now, in the past, they would have, if there was unconscious bias training in their office, they would have just gone along with it. If they were called a racist for going to a protest outside a migrant hotel, they would have been scared off and gone home. I think we are seeing people going, you know what? This sort of mentality that the liberal elite have foisted upon us and we've just been cowed into silence, I don't care if I'm called a racist now. I don't care if I'm called far right. I don't care if I'm called a Nazi. If that is the price to be paid for protecting women and children in this country, so be it. If that's the price to be paid for me acknowledging common sense, then so be it. Yeah. I think we're seeing a change there, Alex. I really do. I'd be curious to see if other people are feeling that change in the mood.
Do you know what we should do as a country? We should actually demand that the unions, who love supporting all of these migrants, we should demand the unions, which have massive multi-million-pound war chests, pay for their accommodation.
Yeah.
Let the lefties prop up their whole blimmin' ideology. Don't ask me to give half my salary to give a 4-star hotel, a driving lesson, a half-price e-scooter and a mobile phone to someone whose ultimate intention is probably to rape me.
Yeah.
I don't really want to work to help that person perpetrate their vile attitudes on our streets.
But how incredible as well that the unions once were the champions of the working class, sticking up for the poor, impoverished miners, and now they are the ones who are literally putting the working class at risk from foreign migrants. It is, and they're also the ones who are at the front of all the stupid pride marches, and they are leading the identity politics charge.
The thing I worry about with all of this that the left don't seem to have clocked is, by and large, there are plenty of people who've come to the country as immigrants who are blimmin' fantastic, absolutely wonderful. Like you, for instance. Although I don't think anyone thinks that you're a boatio. But that's a new word, isn't it? Boatio.
Yeah, there'll be footage coming out of me just swimming onto the shore of Dover. Yeah.
I'm going to add boatio to the lexicon.
A
boatio. But the thing is, my next door neighbours, for example, Turkish, I adore them. We're in and out of each other's houses. They've just gone back to Turkey for a bit of a holiday. And they're like, we're going to fly home early to help you pack up your house. And you don't have to do that, guys. Enjoy your holiday. I put in the big dog. My mum, 76-year-old mum, is ready to carry beds downstairs on her head. She is so hardline. She's so hardline, she's watching this right now. She woke up at 4 o'clock this morning when I woke up, bounced into my room like a Labrador with scrambled egg, cup of tea, full of ideas of me having to have lock boxes in my new front porch of my house and where I might keep a bicycle and things. And I'm just like, whoa!
What's your mum's name?
Leslie.
G'day, Leslie.
Oh, she loves you. She'll be blushing. She'll be blushing. But What were we talking about before I started riffing on how cool my mum is?
Leslie.
Boatios.
Oh, yeah. Well, this is the thing. It was on immigration, and basically the reason the government's incompetence on both illegal and legal migration has radicalised a lot of people to the extent where some people say, well, all immigration is bad. That's not necessarily true.
That's what I say. Wonderful neighbours. And if you allow this unfettered, indiscriminate immigration to happen, where you've got men roaming around our streets who are either carrying weapons, illegally selling drugs, working in the black market, nicking things. That's the other story we're going to cover today. The fact that a load of these people in hotels are on the rob because they got to pay back their people traffickers. Then it sort of, people become very suspicious of all foreigners then. Look, and it creates the xenophobia and racism that all these nutters with their short fringe and their placards are trying to stop. I'm like, if you sort out the unfettered immigration problem, you actually counter the feelings of hatred and resentment.
That's right. Look, I think there should be a net negative migration policy in this country for the foreseeable future, but that doesn't mean you don't try and get the best of the best in here. I think there should be two tests. It should be very basic. Are you going to be a net contributor to this country economically?
So you say there should be two tiers? Careful there, William.
No. Are you going to be a net contributor economically? So basically, are you going to be in a high-paying job?
Yeah.
And then B, are you coming from a culturally compatible country like New Zealand or Australia or Canada or wherever?
Western Europe.
And if if you're willing to work hard during the week and then go to the pub on the weekend and buy into the culture, that's fine. The problem is 95% of the immigrants that are coming into this country do not satisfy that test.
Yeah, but also, I'm more than happy to have a top oncologist from Nigeria. I'm more than happy to have a nuclear physicist from wherever. But like I said, that's quality. That's quality imports. Listen, we're going to have to go to a break now. We haven't even touched a news story yet. We've just baffled on for 23 minutes about whatever we want. So after the break, we're going to start looking at some of this material here, what is in the newspapers, and treating you to our thoughts on a lot of it. And you can share your thoughts with us. 03444991000 is the number to dial. It's never too early to pick up the blower. It's your normal network rate as well, so it don't really cost you anything. 03444991000 is also the number if you want to send me a WhatsApp or leave us a little voice note on WhatsApp, a voicio on a boatio, if you will. 8722 is the number to text. If you're going to do that, you've got to write the word talk before you put your thoughts and feelings down. And we're on X at talkTV, and coming up after the break, we're actually going to discuss the news.
10K cash for Coldplay.
10k cash for Coldplay with 10 grand in your hand tax-free plus 6 super hot tickets to witness Coldplay's sold-out Music of the Spheres tour from a VIP box at Wembley Stadium on August 22nd.
Tickets, top tunes and 10 grand cash.
Don't panic. Enter to play 10k for Coldplay at talksport.com/win and get ready for the feel-good gig of the summer. 10k for Coldplay is a joint TalkSport Limited competition run on TalkSport, Talk and Virgin Radio. See talksport.com for terms and conditions.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side.
Hello, welcome back to the show. I'll do a couple of messages, then we're actually going to go through the newspapers because that's what we're paid to do, not just enjoy each other's company. But we're going to do that as well, aren't we? And you get to enjoy. I always think it's nice. If I was listening to the radio, I'd want to listen in on two people who actually enjoy spending time with each other, having a good old chin.
Yeah, I agree. And can I just say, I think that the natural light that's coming through here, you're looking radiant, Alex.
It has given me a glow.
A glow.
A real glow, thank you.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just your presence.
Oh.
Oh, look at this party name suggestion, the Sharia and Share Alike Party. The West End Party, someone says.
Yeah.
Bin at Core Party.
Bin at Core?
Bin. I kind of get it, but
Bin at Core. Bin at Core. Kind of work. It may need a bit of refining, but I like where it's going.
Deborah says we're two of her favourite people. Can I just say?
Thank you, Deb.
And she says that it should be called the Disdain Party.
Disdain Party, yep.
The After Party, says Glenn
After
from
Party.
Leeds.
That would be the world's worst after party. That's that after party where the party's been going too
I love
long.
this. Graham of Welling says it should be called Labour Pains.
Labour pains.
Oh, I'm crowning. Oh, I'm not, because I actually believe in having a republic and not the monarchy. Hey. Right, let's do the news. It's like Comedy Central here. Let's do the news, shall we? Donald Trump, he is in town, and he's just done a sort of typical bunker buster Big Don comment as he's about to touch down. And guess what? We've got a clip of it, so let's treat ourselves to a bit of the DJ.
I mean, there's a couple of things I could say, but on immigration, you better get your act together, or you're not going to have Europe anymore. You got to get your act together. And we, as you know, last month we had nobody entering our country. Nobody. Shut it down. And we took out a lot of bad people that got there with Biden. Biden was a total stiff. And what he allowed to happen, but you're allowing it to happen to your countries. And you got to stop this horrible invasion that's happening to Europe, many countries in Europe. Some people, some leaders have not let it happen. And they're not getting the proper credit they should. I could name them to you right now, but I'm not going to embarrass the other ones. But stop. This immigration is killing Europe.
Is that the definition of sick bar?
Yeah, I think so. Well, look, this is riffing on, Douglas Murray said this 10 years ago. People have been saying this for some time, but it's just nice to hear a world leader say it so openly and honestly. He's, of course, spot on. And
absolutely. And it's lovely, the fact that, this is the most powerful man, the leader of the free world. And, this is why Reform's doing so well, because Nigel Farage has been at the forefront of this debate for ages. He was absolutely vilified. He was essentially crucified when he put that poster out, when Mutti Merkel said, "Oh, everyone come to Europe, refugees welcome, we will manage, we will give you a home." And then he put up that massive billboard in central London showing the sort of huge snake of foreign fighting age men marching through the frontiers of Europe, and basically breaking point is what he called it. And everyone, I remember for years after that, people say, "Do you disown that poster?" People would say to me, "What do you say about that disgusting poster?" And I'm trying to make him say, "I was nothing to do with it. I didn't pick that picture. I did." But, he was blimmin' right. Yeah. He was right.
If and when this country is able to turn around the horrific damage that is done to itself through mass migration, We will need to remember the heroes that said this stuff when it wasn't popular to say it. In fact, when you were vilified for saying it. I think Farage is one. Someone like a Douglas Murray is another. I know it is controversial to say, but someone like Tommy Robinson was saying it before many other people were saying it. You need to remember these people because it will be very easy for the left. It will be very easy for the left to just go along with this and say, no, we were never saying it. It was
we
the same
knew all along. We always thought this.
Same with COVID. And you will need to hold those people to account, and you will need to remember the heroes.
Remember how those people have been treated. Tommy Robinson imprisoned, and people can say, "Oh, he's a criminal. He's done this and mortgage fraud and da 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 da." But at the end of the day, he has been demonised. Douglas Murray has to have round-the-clock security. Nigel Farage, the same. Also, for his whole political career has been called a xenophobe, dangerous, a racist, a monster, and all they were trying to do is point out that what was going to come, what was happening all along, now we learn, and this really sticks in my craw. This upsets... Well, yeah. I haven't even had one of my berries yet. I haven't got any bits between my teeth because I haven't even ingested one of these lovely fruits. And I'm finding it very hard to ingest this, which is that councils are looking to buy empty homes to house migrants under government plans. They're proposing pilot schemes in which the governments could pay councils to buy or renovate property, which would then be leased back to the Home Office to house asylum seekers. When it says the government could pay councils to buy or renovate property, you do realise when it is the government, that's us. We're having to now, even if you can't afford to get on the housing ladder yourself, what you pay in tax is going to be buying a house for some ne'er-do-well to shack up in so he can work for Deliveroo or sell some drugs on the corner, maybe set up a pop-up brothel, make an OnlyFans account where he's, I was going to say, well, I probably shouldn't say it, 6:32 in the morning, but, getting up to no good with a fellow migrant.
Well, we've seen that in the hotels already. There's been evidence of porn that's been created by illegal migrants in these hotels. Look, it's like someone in this government has said, people are starting to get angry with hotels. Let's just put them in houses instead. Problem solved. There's a couple of problems here. Number one, it's the same basic principle. You're still giving them free accommodation. You're still providing an incentive to come to this country.
And they're not locking them in the houses. They're still going to be roaming the streets and lurking around outside school gates if that is their want.
That's problem number two. And problem number three is it is worse than a hotel because they will be embedded more closely in a community. They will be in council estates.
And there's no way of monitoring them.
And there's no way of monitoring. This creates an even greater danger to the women and children of this country.
Lord knows. At the moment, they're going in and out of these hotels. They're allowed to walk around, have fun, have full board. What cuisine would you like for breakfast? We're going to put on a yoga class for you. There's PlayStations in the games room. If you want to use the sauna, that's there for you. La, 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 la. And when you hear reports of people who've worked in these hotels, they got weapons under their beds. Yes, they got knives. Yes, they got stacks of cash, some of them, like loads of money. But if they're in a house... How do you know that when you put a bunch of, people who've come from very Islamist countries, Syria, Afghanistan, Yemen, whatever, you stick them all in a house, how do you know that they're not, stitching TNT inside a little vest to wear down the local trains? That you don't know. You cannot monitor people if they're dispersed around the place like that.
And above and beyond all the safety concerns, the fundamental principle is you have to create a disincentive to stop people from coming, and this is an incentive. I don't want to do what I always do, which is say, well, we sorted it out in Australia, but we sorted it out in Australia.
You're going to say it anyway, because you did.
Because we shifted them off to some poxy island in the Pacific and put them in a detention centre. And you know what? After a couple of weeks, the boats stopped coming because no one wants to live in a poxy detention centre in the South Pacific. And I think the new Rupert Lowe think tank thing, what's it called?
Restore,
which they're doing very, very good work. They've said that the obvious solution here, before we get out of the ECHR, which we need to do, is to set up tents on MOD land and create those detention centres.
Yes.
Now look.
And say you're not allowed to leave them.
Now look, in the short term, the optics won't be great.
But that's what we need. The dodgy optics is the point.
The Australian Prime Minister at the time, as Tony Abbott, said of this type of policy, cruelty is the point. You have to be cruel in the short term in order to save the lives of people in the United Kingdom, but also save the lives of many of these illegal migrants trying to cross the channel in the long term.
And also, stop the vile organisations, the criminal cartels, who aren't cute, cuddly people who are getting the money to put these people in boats. They're not sort of, you know, lovely Samaritans who want to help out the poor in other countries. They're cartels who are also responsible for trafficking of women into the sex trade, organ harvesting, slavery, drug trafficking, and then on top of that, probably terrorism. Once upon a time, people like the Taliban grew some poppies and said, let's sell this as opium across the Western world. Now they're like, oh, let's forge some passports and set up some migration routes. That is how these terrorists make their money and fund their operations. We've got to go to a break now, but don't worry, because Will and I are going to be back straight after to continue the conversation. See you after this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, my lovelies. Welcome back. Let's do some of your messages. Alan in Merseyside says the best I've heard about the naming of Jeremy Corbyn's new party is The Leftovers.
Yep.
Really?
Yep, very good.
Paul in Hitchin says the new party should be called Sultana Corbyn Unionist Movement. Or Scum.
Scum. Ah,
Yes,
very good. Very good.
I like it. Well said,
Do you
Will.
Do you know? Oh, well, sorry, you were about to say something nice.
Let's
Go on.
not interrupt the praise. Well said, Will, says Leon. I don't care the labels that the lefties want to give reform voters because, like I heard Laura Cunningham say yesterday, I'm not a racist, I'm not far right, I'm just British. Who's Laura Cunningham when she's at home? I like the sound of her.
Yeah.
Says something very sensible, whoever she may be.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Well said. Agree. Where was I going with that before?
I don't know. We've embalmed you in praise, and now your ego has become so big you can't remember. There's no space left inside your skull to, you know, recapture your erudite thoughts.
Embalmed me with praise. I've already heard two lines which I don't think have ever been said throughout the course of human history from you today. Embalmed with praise is one, and big dong buster bomb was the other. I don't think the term big dong buster bomb has ever been said before, and I like it.
Okay, good. I'm glad. What about Botio?
Botio may have been said before.
Botio's too cute. It's too nice a word to describe the people coming in.
Well, actually, this is a good point. I'm so sick and tired of people either calling these illegal migrants asylum seekers.
Yes.
The government's now saying irregular migrants.
Yeah.
These are illegal migrants. They've entered the country illegally, particularly as there is nothing unsafe about Calais. It's a perfectly safe place to be. They have ventured from backwards parts of the world, many of which aren't actually war zones at the moment, but they don't qualify as asylum seekers anyway. But they've definitely gone through countries which are safe.
Yeah.
The last of which is France. You are not an asylum seeker if you've already had the opportunity to seek safe haven somewhere. I'm sick of it. We need to collectively call these people what they are, which is criminals. They are criminals.
Do you know what? You have strap yourself in and grow some wheels because you've become a human Segway because you have managed to take me straight into the story. I'm holding it in my hand, which is that fewer than 500 migrants have been charged with entering the UK illegally. Now, the Conservative Party, as I recall, basically turned around and said, if you've come over by small boat, you are here illegally and you will never be granted asylum, as a way to try and stymie the flow. And as soon as the Labour Party got in power, I'm pretty sure that happened.
I'm not sure they did say that, because if they did
they
say
were going to do it, but then a Labour Party literally reversed it, didn't they?
That may have
do you know
been
what?
part
Did
of
they?
a
I
lineup.
don't know.
Yeah.
It's 6:41 in the morning. My memory could be a little bit foggy. I'm pretty sure that did happen, that there was at least a proposal to state that anyone who's come into the country via the Channel will have entered illegally. And then the Labour Party lifted that. Oh, yeah, here we go. All migrants who arrive in the UK on small boats breach the law of illegal arrival in the UK, an offence created in the Nationality and Borders Act in 2022. Yeah. So that
No,
was...
I agree with that, but it's the second element there, which is, and they will never be allowed to settle in the United Kingdom. That is the critical line that should underpin a border policy, because that basically says you will never have the opportunity to stay here. That then creates the disincentive. That would be the part where I don't think the Conservatives got to.
I mean, it is so crazy. Donald Trump's saying we have got no one crossing into the UK, into the US illegally now, because he's like, right, we're just not going to allow it. Done. We have the ability in Europe to do that. I'm sorry, but if we've got the ability to turn around and go, everyone's locked up in their houses, we've got the ability to deal with this problem. And I will not be gaslit by the European leaders. The jamboree of boneheads who are about to turn up in Scotland to try and make a trade deal with Donald Trump, Ursula von der Blimmin Leyen, who's, ECHR and it's so difficult. No, we actually have the ability to turn around and go, we're going to stop this. We're going to simultaneously just pause the Schengen Acquis, close all of the borders unilaterally. We're going to make it illegal across the whole of Europe to enter via boat. We're going to allow the Italian Navy to turn boats around in the Mediterranean and send them back to Tunisia. The Greeks are doing it already, can I just say? Well done them. We like some common sense. And we're going to basically say it's absolutely fine to put these people in detention centres because they're not allowed to just come into the continent and go, we're here now, give us stuff.
Well,
now, Europe could do that very easily. I'm sorry, it doesn't need all of this legal wrangling and we've got to leave the ECHR and this act and that act. You know, I'm sorry, but under the Human Rights Act, I'm pretty sure telling people to not leave their house is not the right to a family life, or not the right... You know, that must have broken every single, you know, treaty invented by mankind, telling us to lock ourselves in our houses for a year, destroy our enterprises, not see our dying relatives. I mean, if they can do that for the sake of security for people who sneezed a few times, you can turn around and say all these terrorists and ne'er-do-wells flooding into the continent is an issue, it is a crisis. We can actually pull the lever, break glass to declare an emergency and stop it. Why do they want it so much? What is wrong with these people?
A few thoughts to unpick there. Number one, on the legal side, the sad reality is we have got ourselves into a terrible mess because we have an activist judicial class that will interpret the ECHR and the Human Rights Act in the broadest way possible in order to get more people into the country. That is why it is a prerequisite that you do need to get the ECHR out of the legal framework as well as the Human Rights Act, because of the judges that you now have in this country. And Suella Braverman did released a wonderful report this week, which spoke about why that is so necessary.
The 56-page report of if you want to leave the ECHR, this is how. Because of course, you can't because of, you know, the Northern Ireland, and it's just like, you can do anything if you want to.
And that's the second point I would make in how you just described very eloquently, Alex, the situation, in that this is a question of political will. It is not a question of technical problem solving as much. If you want to solve this problem, you can. The problem is that too many people across the political class in Europe and the United Kingdom secretly don't believe in, well, not even secretly, many of them openly don't believe in borders. They believe in this globalist multicultural project, and so they want to keep this going. That's why again, you heard those most recent measures. I think it was like this week from Lammy. Oh, we're going to freeze the assets of gangs of people smugglers.
Oh, right,
We're
these people who launder their money and don't care for law and order anyway. You're like, oh, you can't come on holiday to the UK anymore. We're going to shut down your UK bank account. You don't think they've figured out how to get around that already? You absolute numbskull.
Yeah, it also raises the interesting question of why they were letting people smugglers into the United Kingdom in the first place. But these are all just picking at around the edges. If they genuinely wanted to solve the problem, they could. The thing is, I don't think they genuinely do.
I don't think they do. Let's crack on with some messages, because there's so many coming in. You guys are on fire. Yeah, give yourselves a round of applause. Smack your desks, make that teacup shake. Morning, guys. I'm afraid to say that we have lost our wonderful country. All these demos now against migrants. It's too little, too late. Let's face up to it. This takeover by the left has been in the planning for many years by putting sleepers in places at top positions for this very day. Let's wave goodbye to Great Britain. I'm not ready to wave goodbye to Great Britain. I'm going to go down in a ball of flames if I have to.
I agree with that. Some people could interpret that as conspiratorial, and it's not. It just means that the education system for 40 years now has been hijacked by leftists. You're brainwashed for 12 years before you even get to university with this sort of multicultural leftist agenda. So it's no surprise that these kids come out of these educational institutions and they bring this worldview into the civil service, into politics, into the corporates, into media. It's not a conspiracy. It is purely a result of an education system that's been hijacked.
At one point, we fought communism with all of our might and all of our strength, and we're terrified of it. And then all of a sudden, we just fully whole-scale adopted it.
Well, this is also why, if and when reform gets in, and something I haven't heard a great deal about actually, is they need to look at the education system and they need to make wholesale changes to curriculums. They need to look at teachers and how they're being trained. They need to look at all of this stuff, because if you don't fix that, then all of the downstream problems will continue.
Exactly. Totally agree. Morning, Alex and Will. Call the new party the Left Out Party, says Gary in York. Morning, Alex and Will. Trump is 100% right. Or far right, as some people might say. Far right's the best form of right. And why be right when you can just be far right? Yeah. We need to sort the migrant problem. Might be a good idea to find out where the loyalties of the Home Office lie. Like Parliament, it doesn't seem like it's the UK, says Dean from Dagenham. Ain't that right? Sean from good old Gloucester. Morning, Alex and Will. Brilliant double act to start the weekend. Whip, whip. Something needs to happen soon before Labour finish us off. Keith Stalin and his cronies' destruction of this country is not only because he is incompetent and an ideologue, but it is deliberate. How else could they get things wrong 100% of the time? They will completely destroy our country. We need to get them out ASAP or we're finished as a nation. It's a truly desperate situation. We need an election now. That ain't going to happen though, lads. Right, we're going to take another break. It's just time is flying. We're having such fun. But don't go anywhere, because there's still 3 hours and 12 minutes of pure unadulterated far-right joy to come. See you after this.
10K cash for Coldplay.
Play 10k cash for Coldplay with 10 grand in your hand tax-free plus 6 super hot tickets to witness Coldplay's sold-out Music of the Spheres tour from a VIP box at Wembley Stadium on August 22nd.
Tickets, top tunes and 10 grand cash.
Don't panic. Enter to play 10k for Coldplay at talksport.com/win and get ready for the feel-good gig of the summer. 10k for Coldplay is a joint TalkSport Limited competition run on TalkSport, Talk and Virgin Radio. See talksport.com for terms and conditions.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
You guys, you've got to laugh. You should see what Kingston's doing in the corner of the room. You could tell we don't pay our guests enough when they're going through the papers, ripping out the vouchers. What you got there, Will?
The Daily Mail's got a cracking little deal on page 44. You can get a free bag of sweets partnering with WH Smith and TG Jones for male readers. You can get Skittles, you can get Maltesers, M&Ms,
Right.
Starburst. So
Cool.
I've just kind of casually
Yeah, so
ripped this out.
what do you go for? On all of that, I'd probably go, I do like a good Malteser. Maybe a Milky Way Magic Star. I haven't had those for a while. I'd go Maltesers.
I'm going Skittles. I love Skittles. So there you are, everyone.
Taste the rainbow.
Cop that, Murdoch. I'm taking you for all your worth.
Right, let's do our front pages. Now you've finished taking out all the vouchers.
Yep.
Oh, by the way, just got to read a couple of these messages. Oh, we've got a voice note to play as well. I'm all over the place. Morning, Alex. Lovely to see Will Kingston with you. Great eye candy for this time of morning.
Stop it.
Yeah, that's Jill from Berkshire.
Thank you,
Look at
Jill.
that.
I'm
Look
single,
at that.
Jill, by the way.
And then it says, talk, morning. I said the word talk. I know we've got to write the word talk for your message. I don't have to read the word talk out. That's weird.
It's like the
That's
Anchorman.
odd.
It's like the Will
Yeah,
Ferrell
talk.
thing. I will read whatever is on the teleprompter.
Morning, you gorgeous pair. What a joy to put the TV on. I couldn't agree more with everything you were saying. But even so, no one is taking any notice. Keep it up, Jane. There we go. Gorgeous pair.
Thank
This
you.
is basic, like, political pornadography.
Yeah,
Let's have a voice note, shall
That's
we?
interesting.
before
Well, you can't watch pornography in this country anymore, so
you can still enjoy this adult entertainment, whatever age you are.
don't have to provide ID to watch us, team.
Right, let's have a voice note, shall we, from Anne.
Morning guys, Anna Surrey. I work with the public and I have been banging on about this for at least 2 years. I know, and I speak to many people per day, I would say 70% of people now hold our views. What frightens me a tad, not frightens, bothers me a tad, I would say 1 in 5 people that I speak to, being predominantly male, openly speaks about civil war, not civil unrest, civil war. People are frightened, they are angry, there is no leadership, and when there is no decent leadership, people look toward their own leader, which at the minute is Nigel Farage. But Nige, let me say something out loud. If you don't mind your step and do what is right, people will look towards Tommy Robinson or someone very similar.
Yep.
Nothing wrong with Tommy Robinson, but he's not really a prime minister. Cheers, guys. Bye-bye.
Well, she makes a very good point, and you're right, a lot of people are now openly talking about civil war. This all started off, I think, with a brilliant podcast of Louise Perry interviewing the stupendous Professor David Betts, who's a professor of modern war at a top university in London. I forget which one.
Imperial. King's College. I thought the Louise Perry interview was okay. You will find a much better interview with Professor David Betts on the wonderful podcast Fire at Will.
By any chance?
Yeah,
there you
that's
go.
a ripper interview, that one.
But you know, when it was first out there, people went, oh my goodness, and now people are like, yeah, I can totally see that happen. And like you're saying, I think a lot of people like bring it on, which is actually quite terrifying. Let's do our front pages. So, oh, by the way, if you want to leave us a voice note, we want it. Give us some of that goodness to play out on air. 03444991000. Will and I love a voiceo. Right, where are we starting?
What is it with just putting O's on the end of words there? It's a very Australian thing.
Votio, voiceo,
Except
MyGo.
in Australia, you shorten the word and then you put the O. So avocado becomes avo. Kingston becomes Kingo.
What would I be?
Afternoon. Yeah, yours is a toughie.
Would I be Philo for Phillips?
You can put a Y. That Tuffy reminded me. You can put a Y on as well.
Alexio.
Lexi, Alex Phillips.
Unlike Paul Simon, you cannot call me Al. Just want to make that very clear.
Yeah, you actually do have a tough one.
Yeah, Alexandra O.
Yeah. What should Alex's nickname
What should
be?
let's
call
invent a
in,
nickname
message
for me.
in, listeners.
Oh, this is much more fun than naming Jeremy Corbyn's new party. Let's just name me.
Name Alex.
Let's name me. Yeah, I like that. Bring it on.
Yeah.
I came up with my own new moniker the other day because someone made this sort of AI thing on X.
I saw that. Was it with
me
the shield?
like a Toys R Us toy with a shield and stuff, like a sort of Joan of Arc, and I came up with Moan of Arc.
Moan of Arc.
I like that one, yeah. But if you've got a new nickname for me, let me know. 03444991000 is the number to send me a WhatsApp message. Give me your thoughts. 87222 if you'd rather text it across. And where are we going to start with the papers? What have you picked first?
Let's start with the Times.
All right. Here it is. Big, meaty Times on a weekend.
So Keir says the PM rejects calls to back Palestinian statehood. Now, look, I am loath to compliment Keir Starmer, but this is the right decision.
Yeah.
Again, it's the blooming obvious decision, but it is the right decision. This comes after Emmanuel Macron has formally recognised Palestine. It is a nonsense. It is morally bankrupt to reward terrorism in this way. But it's also just logically ridiculous. Because, and I'm going back into the recesses of my memory to remember, from international relations courses, what are the elements of a state? And you need to have a population, you need to have a defined territory, you need to have the ability of that state to be able to interact with other states, and you need to have a functioning government. And on 3 out of those 4, I'm sorry, you do not have that for Palestine. They are governed by terrorists.
It's also this crazy idea that people think there is such thing as Palestinians. Which there aren't, actually.
Yeah.
Palestinians and the people who inhabit Gaza are from all various walks of life. And the one thing that a lot of them share, not all of them, but a lot of them share, is just loving a bit of Hamas and hating Israel. And this is the other thing, right? Before you come about going, we need a two-state solution, we need Israel and the rest of the world to acknowledge that there is a state of Palestine. It would kind of help if the other side went, and we're going to acknowledge the state of Israel. But they're never going to do that. Only one side is going to commit to the two-state solution. The other side want a one-state solution because they want to wipe the Jews off the face of the earth.
That's right. I don't think a Palestinian leader throughout their history has ever acknowledge the right to exist of Israel. I think the closest, Yasser Arafat may have famously flirted with it when he was speaking in English in the US, and then he gets back home and straight away in Arabic, he then basically says the exact opposite. So that is obviously precondition number one. It's never happened. But I think the other thing which is interesting here, and Macron is such a good example of it, it's the student politicisation of our ruling class. And you see it with the Corbyns. You see it with, well, pretty much all of the Labor Party. It's like they just take their ridiculous juvenile student politics agendas and then they forget that they're actually now in a position of authority. They're doing serious stuff. This is like a lefty fantasy which is completely devoid from reality, but they keep it up because for them virtue signalling is more important than pragmatic leadership.
Oh, they love it. And like you said, it sort of gives them a sense of being showered with moral rectitude. And
that's what
carrying
it's all about.
That Palestinian flag fills them with more joy than carrying our own flag.
Yeah.
That flag doesn't exist, mate, because there is no such thing as Palestine, OK? There isn't. It doesn't exist.
And there's a lot of things that make me sick to my stomach about our ruling class, but perhaps the one which makes me sicker than anything else, there's that sick word again, is these independent Islamic MPs who continually drone on about Gaza, drone on about the Middle East, day in, day out on Twitter, in the Parliament, as there are real serious problems in their largely working class constituencies, which they continue to ignore because for them it's just easier, it's more fun, it's more virtuous to
because they don't
go
care
on about something
the
happening on
country,
the
only the Ummah.
Yeah.
Right, we're going to take a short break now, but 3 more hours of whole good fun coming up.
UK. On DAB+. On your smart speaker. On your smart TV. And on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, good morning, welcome back or welcome aboard. If you've only just joined us, you've missed a rip-roaring first hour to the show. We've been having all sorts of chats. Been going a bit crazy in here. We love it.
Talking porn in the break.
We were talking about porn in the break. Yeah. Because it's 7 o'clock in the morning. That's exactly what you do with your time when your alarm goes off at 4 a.m. We probably might not talk about that on air, though. You never know. We never know where the conversation's going to go.
Right.
If you've missed the twists and turns of the first hour, then don't you worry. You can go back on YouTube or on the Talk app and watch it from the beginning, whatever you're doing today. You can enjoy unadulterated Alex and Will at your leisure. Whether you're waiting in a waiting room, if you're going on a drive somewhere, if you're doing the weekly shop in the supermarket, pushing the trolley around, Will and I are going to be there with you, should you want us. And remember, you can keep your thoughts coming into us as well. We're getting bombarded by messages. We're doing so well on the interaction front.
You guys are doing so well. This is your show as much as it's our show.
Exactly. So sharing is caring. So 03444991000 is the number to call if you want to be patched through to the studio and have a live on-air conversation with us, or you can use that number to send a WhatsApp or leave us a voice note. We do love a good voice note. Oh, cool. Actually, we've got one coming up, so we'll play that out in just a minute. 8722 is the number if you want to send us a text message. Write the word talk before you text. Shall we hit up that voice note from Ron? Let's do it.
Hi Alex, Ron from Scarborough here. Will is so right. The only free thing that the people should get when they come across here is a free tent on MOD land and nothing else. Keep up the good work.
Spot on,
there
Ron.
you go.
Spot
Simple.
on, Ron.
Good old Ronster. We love him. A few more messages, and then let's throw down the newspapers. Good morning, Alex. So they place immigrants into houses paid for by taxpayers, and the shortfall in the council tax because the immigrants will not pay will result in council tax rises, meaning we'll be paying twice. Because we won't get a tax rebate, says Doug. That's such a good point. When you put these MIGOs, these boatios, in private accommodation, are they going to be paying council tax? No. But are they going to be first in the queue to get everything that, we're affording? Yes.
Yeah, did you see that article in the Telegraph yesterday that said something like 6,000 illegal migrants have used their prepaid benefits cards
to go gambling
in the last year.
Yeah.
Now, number one, why is the government not ensuring that those cards can only be used at a Tesco or a Sainsbury's or whatever?
Why do they need these cards? If they're in a hotel where food is being provided, you've got shelter, you've got food. Why do you need pocket money?
Yeah, well, number two, why are they getting them?
Why do you need pocket money?
Exactly right.
Rich says as soon as these illegal migrants land on our beaches, the first thing that should happen is DNA and fingerprints for each and every one of them. The other thing that I learned the other day, someone had put on Twitter their relative lives down on the coast of Kent.
Yes.
And they see boats coming every single day, which aren't being intercepted by the Coast Guard, aren't being sort of, brought into our shores, and just disappear off into white vans.
Yeah.
So even the numbers we're getting on small boat crossings is only going to be the tip of the iceberg. Because you've got all the illegal entrants in the back of trucks still, people coming in illegally and claiming asylum when they've flown in.
Yeah.
If we just look at the small boat numbers, it is only a tiny snapshot of the people breaking into the country.
Yeah, that's right. I recall seeing that too. As the mother of a broadcaster, I can't remember who it was, but it does make you think, if this is just the numbers that are being reported by the government, and by the way, I don't trust those numbers from the government either whatsoever, you have to wonder, it's a big coastline, and, these people smugglers are very canny, they're very cunning, they're very smart. It's like the drug trade, they are very, very good at what they do.
Yeah.
You've got to imagine that the numbers that we see are an actual minority of the total number.
Also, Peter in Norfolk makes a very good point about, this sort of nomenclature and whether people are illegal and all the rest of it. I don't think that the immigrants are coming in illegally, because don't forget, they're picked up in the Channel and brought into the UK by government agencies. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And then in terms of nicknames for me, because that's the thing we're doing, your name should be Rabbit. More rabbit than Watership Down. I'm not sure if that's a compliment or not.
More rabbit than...
Reminds me of that, my other half always says that I bring to mind that song by, you might not know them, Chaz and Dave. They ever make it in Australia? No. They had a song, Rabbit, 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 and I'm like, oh, that's nice, thank you. My nickname should be Aloe, A-L-O, says James.
Hello, A-L... Hello, yeah.
That doesn't pass the Australian test, does it?
It is just a tough one, yeah.
I like this one, though. How about Sexy Lexi?
Sexy Lexi, I like that.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
I think that's really good. I'll go with that. Alextricity.
Electricity. Yeah, no, I don't mind that.
Oh, this is naughty from someone in Tewkesbury. Hi, Alex. It's Tewkesbury here. Tewkesbury is a little town just up the road from where I'm born and bred, Gloucester. Let's cheer us up a tiny bit. I'm so glad they opened the blind. It's the first time I've seen a bright girl from Gloucester. Naughty. Naughty. We don't have a reputation of being the brightest and the best, because what's Gloucester famous for?
Cider.
Well, not so much. More, I'd say Fred West and Chris Whitty. Both of them could be accused of killing lots of people.
Yeah.
I actually quite like Chris Whitty.
But also, I don't want to be rude here, but a bit sexist not including the wife.
Rose?
Yeah, she was just as much a part of that dynamic duo.
She played her part.
Tell you what, have you watched that Netflix show on them?
I've seen everything that's ever been made on those two.
I was late to the party on them, and fascinating documentary, because the first episode is, well, you think this is just a stock standard evil serial killer, and then the poor innocent wife who was under duress and has had to go along with it.
Man, she was
and then
evil.
the second episode, you're oh no, she was arguably more evil than he was.
Yeah.
It's really scary.
When you come visit me down the show, I'll take you on a whistle-stop tour of Fred and Rose West.
Ciders and serial killers.
So, yeah,
what an
museum.
afternoon.
There's actually a museum in Lydney Jail in the Forest of Dean called Crime Through Time, and it's got shovels and bars and all. It's a very strange museum.
Yeah, I'd love that.
Anyway, let's get back to the front pages.
Yes,
Let's not digress anymore. Which one are we going to be looking at next?
Let's do the Telegraph.
There we are. So big,
prostate patients ignored by the NHS. Well, but this is just, what else is new?
Yeah, everyone's ignored by the NHS.
Okay, here we are. Trump, I'd be allowed to pardon Maxwell. Donald Trump said last night that pardoning Ghislaine Maxwell was something he was allowed to do. He hasn't said he'll do it yet, saying he was allowed to do. What do you make of... So to frame this up, there are fissures in the MAGA movement in the US.
Yeah, about whether he's in the Epstein files. There's about a 14-year-old girl.
Yeah.
And
For so long, the line has gone, Trump could shoot up a group of people on Fifth Avenue and it wouldn't affect his popularity. It is that so embedded in that MAGA movement. But there are fissures here. What do you make of all this Maxwell, Epstein,
I don't know, if I'm honest with you, but what someone said to me, which I think is quite valid, is the Biden administration had access to those Epstein files. With all the lawfare chucked at Trump, if he had been getting up to wrong stuff with Epstein, it would have been made public very, very quickly. And also, he was one of the first people to disown Epstein. While the rest of them were still all getting on the Lolita Express and going to stay at the island, he booted him out of Mar-a-Lago quite early on. A lot of people thought Jeffrey Epstein was this big international financier. To be invited to his house was actually to be part of the proper elite. And loads of people were taking up those offers and hanging out with him and probably turning a blind eye to some of the insalubrious activities taking place under his watch. And so there are loads of people who will be named in those files. If Trump was doing bad stuff with him, I'm sorry, I just have a feeling the enemies of Trump would have thrown that at him by now.
Yeah,
Why wouldn't they?
Yeah, I agree. I think that knocks that conspiracy theory stone dead. Can we also just pick up on the Daily Express here? It follows on from the front page of the Telegraph yesterday. Front page of the Telegraph yesterday, they actually looked at some of the results of Labor's, quite frankly, evil attack on farms in this country and the agriculture sector. From memory, from what they said, so I should actually preface this, the Daily Express stopped this war on family farms.
Correct.
Under Labor, the only thing making its way through an abattoir is British farming, and that's exactly right. So from memory, basically yesterday, the Telegraph said that there's been about 6,000 agricultural businesses that have closed in this country, give or take 100 here or there, and there's only been about 3,000 that have opened since those changes were made. It is the fastest what's the opposite of growth? It's the fastest deceleration, whatever, of the agricultural sector in this country since these records were being kept.
It
is
so
evil. I know
crazy.
we've got a lot of farmers who listen to this show.
Yeah.
Strength and love to all of you, because
Big
what
up
you're
my
going
farmers.
through.
I love farmers.
What you're going through is difficult. It's been an incredibly difficult period in terms of just the weather conditions over the last 6 months as well. And I can just see how you would just feel like you're being battered by this government. It's incredibly sad.
So here's a couple of factoids for you. So Karen from Gloucester says that she's looking for forward to listening and seeing me at the Farmers Club in Gloucester, because I'm going to be going to the Farmers Club of Gloucester and talking to the good people of my home city. And I feel very, very passionately about this. I'm actually a weirdo who cries at tractors. I get very, it sounds weird, but I get filled with emotion when I see a tractor or a combine harvester. There's something so romantic about the brilliant men and women who toil in the fields, who set their alarms early, who put food on our table. There's a real romance to the industry. But also, when it comes down to security, you know, we were talking earlier about what makes a nation state and saying that Palestine doesn't really qualify according to any of those tick boxes. But when you have the basics of what a nation state should do for its people, it's providing accommodation, it's making sure they've got a roof over their head, food to eat, and energy, so they can run their businesses. Those must be three primary requisites, and also defending your borders, your territorial integrity. When we had the outbreak of the Second World War, the UK was producing only about 60% of what it ate. And so what you saw with the disruption of those supply chains is we had to go under very strict rationing. A big part of the war effort was dig for victory, grow your own veg. You know, if you can't feed your population, you're screwed, aren't you? I mean, everyone in the UK is going, oh, look at the famine going on in Gaza. I'm sorry, we know that there are Houthi rebels active, you know, attacking all of the cargo, moving through, you know, the world. We saw during COVID what happens when supply chains are locked down. We are currently on only producing 60% of our own food again now. And this is going to get much, much worse under Labour, decimating the agricultural sector. It means that we would be a hair's breadth away if there was even more issues in maritime conveyance of produce. When Putin invaded Ukraine, because they produced so much of the fertiliser, the vegetable oil, the flour from wheat that the world needs, we saw food prices rocket up. If we don't have the ability to be self-sufficient and feed ourselves, it doesn't take much, especially when you're an island. Especially when you're an island, for something to go wrong and all of a sudden you are in deep trouble. And it's not so much we're going to be sitting there with exposed ribs and knobbly spines. It's more that people will go tonto. They won't just be raiding the bog roll from the supermarket shelves. If all of a sudden there are shortages in food, it is another contributing factor to what might suddenly become mass civic disobedience.
Yeah, all of those practical concerns are entirely valid. I agree wholeheartedly. But let me throw another lens, and there's a cultural lens on this. And this is arguably the lens that makes me even more sad, in that your farmers are the closest connection to England's green and pleasant land.
Yes, they are the custodians.
They are the custodians of the land. They, in many ways, represent the best of Britain. They are probably, many of them are, you know, and I say this in the best possible way, a throwback to a better time. They are a closer representation, I would say, of English values than some, you know, multicultural resident of Shoreditch. These are the people that represent the United Kingdom in my eyes. And I think that is why this Labor government is so happy to attract
I bet you cry at tractors too with that. I'll take you down the tractor pull at Christmas time when they cover all their tractors in festive lights and have all these amazing... I love the different horns they have, and things like that.
I'm not a massive crier, but I agree with the sentiment wholeheartedly. And it is this conscious attack, I think, on the best of what the United Kingdom is. I think it is a very conscious thing, because I think Labor really doesn't fundamentally agree with that historical vision of this country.
Farming has always set a precedent for the rest of the world, because in other countries you've got mass intensive indoor rearing where dairy cows are basically kept in massive aircraft hangars. They're strapped into these sort of concrete poles where their exercise is walking around in a circle in a concrete barn. They're fed on all sorts of muck. We actually have a beautiful pastoral idyll when it comes to our farming. So much outdoor rearing. If you drive around continental Europe, right, and next time you do this, ladies and gentlemen, that you go over on the ferry to France or wherever, can you see sheep in the fields? Can you see cows grazing? It's really rare. Whereas in the UK, everywhere you drive, you are surrounded by the sights and sounds of farming, because so much of our farming is still very natural, dependent on the weather, dependent on animals being able to live out their best lives as animals. We have some of the highest welfare standards in the world. And if we constantly attack British farming, we're actually attacking all of farming, because we set such an important precedent to everybody else in our standards.
And if we attack British farming, the sad thing is it will not come back. And this is the thing which I find so terrifying about this government, is so many of the things that they are doing are irreversible. If you have a bad tax policy, the next government can come in, they can change your tax settings. If you have a bad, anything to do with economics, basically. If the NHS has a particular issue, you can change these things.
Yeah.
Demographic change cannot be
irreversible.
reversed.
Yeah, or not without becoming like Idi Amin or something quite frightening.
That's right. And then in the terms of farms, if a farm closes down, it is not going to then be regenerated by someone in the future. This is something which, if we lose it forever.
If BlackRock buy it and throw a load of solar panels on it, or, it gets built over to house migrants, it's done. It's gone. It's very hard to redeem.
And that's why totally agree. 6,000 farming business gone in the last 12 odd months. It is just so sad.
Now, we're a whisker away from the next advert break, so let us try and get through supersonic speed the rest of these front pages. So hit me up, Will.
FT weekend. I don't have that.
Put it to one side. We don't want that. It's the wrong colour anyway.
Daily Mail, County Line gangs switch from switch from drugs to phone thefts.
I mean, this is absolutely remarkable. Well, it's not remarkable. It's very unsurprising. Yeah. It says that the phone theft is a £70 million a year market now. Yeah. I mean, I think it's 1 in 3 people in London have had their phone snatched. 1 in 3. It is absolutely rife. 75% of victims are women, because we're a soft target, because they're less scared about us trying to run after them and retaliate. But also, when people are tracking these phones, this isn't just people buying a phone to go down to the sort of unlock your pin here shop. A lot of these phones are being shipped en masse to China.
They end up in China.
This is a mass international illicit industry.
Yeah, I saw a tweet from Matt Goodwin the other day. He said that according to a whistleblower, 70% of all the theft in the West End comes from coordinated asylum seeker gangs. So this stuff all comes together.
Oh, guess who? The Migos, the Botios in the hotels again. Who's a part of it.
Look, for all their felons, it's not the kids from Winchester and Eton that are going off stealing phones in the West End. This is. If you see these people who are committing these crimes, it is obviously a problem that has been imported, not a problem that has come organically in this country.
Exactly. It's actually you can't do much with a nicked phone in the UK these days, because they immediately get shut down and locked. They're very hard to use. But when you send them back over to China, they can do all sorts of fun and tricks and sell them back to their own population. Yeah. All right, let's do some more. What have we got?
Yes. I've picked up the Guardian.
Yeah, the Grawny ad is Palestine, blah, blah, blah. Recognise Palestine, of course you say so.
I'm not a Greg Wallace, I'm not a groper, sex pest or flasher, and John's not a racist.
Yeah, we were laughing that should basically be the headline for this show. Will says, I'm not a groper, sex pest or flasher, and Alex is not a racist. There you go.
I come back to the... And look, I'll just give a shout out here as an Aussie, but Root seals his place in the history books. Joe Root now is the second top run scorer in Test history. He overtook Australian legend Ricky Ponting yesterday in the Test series against India. He's been a great champion of English cricket. He will probably end up as the top run scorer, overtaking Sachin Tendulkar. He's also always been a humble man. He's been professional. He's one of those guys, if you're playing him in the Ashes, you do love to hate him because he's so good. But I will say, as an Aussie, congrats to Joe Root, a champion of British sport.
You're going to have to teach me about cricket. My brother promised one day, I used to live in Oval, and my brother promised me one day he'd teach me about cricket and took me to the Oval. And he promised me 3 things. He said, number 1, it's really good fun. You get to sit in the sunshine, get a nice tan and watch a bit of cricket, and it's going to be the 3rd day of England versus Pakistan. It's going to be exciting. That's number 1 promise. Number 2 promise is we get to take in all this munch and scoff it as well. And number 3 promise is you get to drink all this booze, and then you attach all of your lager cups together and you create these snakes around the stadium. And I was like, that sounds cool.
Yeah,
that sounds very cool. Anyway, all 3 failed. Number 1, the weather wasn't good. I was sitting in the blimmin' shade. And also, the cricket was rubbish. And he was like, this is a really bad game to watch. Oh, thanks. I literally just sat there going, what is this? It's just people in white clothes standing around in a field. Number 2, they nicked half my hamper because it was in the wrong kind of container. They actually stole my glass jar of foie gras pâté. Yeah. I mean, come on!
That's the nanny state for you, isn't it?
That is really the nanny state. And number 3, they had banned the beer snakes. So I'm all round disappointed. So one day you're going to have to actually teach me what cricket's all about. Right, we've really got to get to an advert break. So last 2 newspapers, The Mirror, Gaza stuff, starving kids, it's sad.
Yep.
And
it's sad, but a lot of it is propaganda. I'm not going to accept all that as wholesalely true. I think, it's always I find it very peculiar that you have these starving kids and then the parents that are holding them always seem to be very well fed.
There you are. I don't even want to get into the whole Gaza thing because I haven't got a Scooby what's actually going on. Nobody does, let's be fair. And the weekend, the UK is set to drop aid into Gaza. So there you go. The RAF are going to parachute food parcels to starving Palestinians. OK, fair play. But what will probably happen if you're indiscriminately just dropping these parcels in is the terrorists will get hold of it, fill themselves down in their tunnels, starve the rest of the population. Actually, one thing I didn't realise is there are all these sort of family clans in Gaza who are at war with Hamas, and they're fighting each other and shooting each other to try and control the aid supply, because that's how they get their riches.
You've got to remember that the goal of Hamas is to starve the population. They do not care about their citizens. In fact, if their citizens are suffering, it means that they can get the silly leftist Westies. The you know what I mean. The leftists in the West.
I like Westies. No, we're going to stick with that. Change approved.
The leftists in the West have sympathy to their cause, and that is exactly what they are after.
Exactly.
They are the ones who are ultimately responsible for the suffering in the Gaza Strip.
Yeah, it's as if Hamas themselves made the front page of the Mirror. Yeah. Right, we're going to take a short break now, but don't go anywhere, because Will and I are going to be back, and we're going to be joined by Mike Neville, retired Scotland Yard Detective Chief Inspector, to discuss all of the crime waves and also the crime waves connected to asylum seekers. That's coming up after this.
$10K cash for Coldplay.
Play 10K cash for Coldplay with 10 grand in your hand tax-free plus 6 super hot tickets to witness Coldplay's sold-out Music of the Spheres tour from a VIP box at Wembley Stadium on August 22nd.
Tickets, top tunes and 10 grand cash.
Don't panic. Enter to play 10K for Coldplay at talksport.com/win and get ready for the feel-good gig of the summer. 10K for Coldplay is a joint TalkSport Limited competition run on TalkSport, Talk and Virgin Radio. See talksport.com for terms and conditions.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello and welcome back to the show. We're having such fun, aren't we, Mr. Kingston? Now we are going to have even more fun because we're joined by a new playmate in the form of Mike Neville, who's a retired Scotland Yard Detective Chief Inspector, good friend of the channel. Good morning to you, Mike.
Good morning, Alex.
Right, let us begin with these protests. That it started off in Epping Forest, that got a little bit of publicity, let's say, and now we find out that similar protests have been taking place outside migrant hotels in Bournemouth, Southampton, Norwich, Leeds. Do you foresee this stuff spreading, and how should the police handle it?
It will spread. There's no doubts about that, because I think just the ordinary people are just getting sick and tired of it. They see it on the TV and they see their own children being affected by this. I've got 3 daughters, 2 are younger. In the little town that they live in, Hampshire, suddenly there's a change in the park. There's all these men who don't look like they're local, who are just hanging around. And so even in small little towns in the middle of nowhere, there's a real impact. Now, how do the police handle it? Well, the way they did it in Essex is obviously not the way to handle it, because the duty of the police is firstly to, what the old phrase is, to keep the king's peace, to keep any trouble away. If there's 2 sides protesting, then you keep them separate. You certainly don't bring the 2 sides together. And if you start bussing people around, it looks like you're on one side and not the other. And this is the real problem with the police. Too many of the senior officers are a part of the establishment, and they have the same worldview of Keir Starmer. And if you look at the protesters at the Epping Hotel, in the world of Keir Starmer, the mums and dads and granddads and grandmothers and all the people, locals who are there, they are far-right thugs, because they don't like the illegal immigrants coming in. They don't really think diverse is a strength. And they really want Epping to be like it was when their grandparents were alive. According to the Keir Starmer world, of course, that the people who are bussed in from all over the country by the Socialist Worker Party with their silly little signs, they are the good people in their heads, because they love diversity and they love the fact that more and more immigrants come in the country, and they really are nice people in their worldview, and this needs to stop. The police need to be impartial. We need to get back to British policing. Sir Robert Mark, who's one of the best commissioners of the police in the Met, he said the police should win by appearing to lose. The police should be seen as just separate, dealing with the problem and not causing issues by marching protesters into each other.
I mean, it's absolutely crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. Mike, I want to pick up on that line. We need to get back to British policing, because there is this wonderful tradition, as you would know better than anyone in this country, of policing by consent. It is why you don't see guns in the hands of police officers in the UK, unlike the US, unlike Australia. And that worked in a high trust society, and it worked when people had trust in the police force. And it does feel like we have lost that trust in the police. Do you think it will be possible for the police forces of this country to be able to get that trust back? And if so, how do you do that?
Well, firstly, it really does sadden me, that loss, because I was really proud to be a Scotland Yard detective, and around the world, people respected the police. I think the nicest story I've ever heard about the British police was a Jewish girl arriving in this country in 1939, and she said her first impression of England was that the policeman smiled. She'd been in this awful country where the police were bullies, and then she arrives in a place where the police are the friends of the public. And I think that's what we need to get back to. It's going to be a very long road. What we've had in the police over the last 20 years is an absolute obsession with diversity. We must have more of these, more of that, more of the other, more women, more this, more this. And this will get us more trust. This is what we were constantly bombarded with. And the trust and confidence in the police is at absolute rock bottom, because the public really don't care, do they? When have you ever had a member of the public saying, do you know what, I really didn't like the sexuality or the colour of the officer who turned up to help me.
Ridiculous.
What they say is, I got a rubbish service. So it's the road back. We could get back there, because it is Britain, and we do have this trust in authorities, but it is such a long road. But there must be if a government comes in that's new, they must say, we're going to scrap all this diversity. All we want to do is recruit good people people into the police who see the British Legion motto, service before self, because there are so many good police officers on duty today who are going to face knives, guns, and whatever else. I'm going to do the right thing. But it's the leadership. To get back there, we need leaders who have diversity of thought rather than see this diversity of colour, sexuality, and all this nonsense that no one cares about.
And behind all this diversity and the cultural enrichment of unfettered immigration is this product, which is, it's in the Telegraph on page 6 today, no doubt other newspapers too. Migrant shoplifting gangs run riot in lawless West End. Thousands of pounds worth of designer goods are being stolen by asylum seekers across London. Security bosses say they're helpless to stop the thefts carried out using tin-foiled lined bags which don't set off shop alarms. Brazen thieves seen stealing from Liberty London, Gucci, Prada, Louis Vuitton before returning to taxpayer-funded hotels. Concerns were raised by a whistleblower who told The Sun that 70% of shoplifters in the West End were asylum seekers. I mean, it's just 70%. Apparently, the rate now of shoplifting has gone up 163% this year alone compared to last year. Because all these people staying at our convenience, or inconvenience as it may be, paid for by us to have, you know, lovely hotels like the Britannia, luxury 4-star hotel down in Canary Wharf, are going out and nicking things, knowing they probably won't get caught. Some people say, oh, poor things, it's to pay off the traffickers. I mean, it's just mad. We are paying to put up in luxury rapists and thieves.
It is incredible, isn't it? I mean, the amount of shoplifting has gone up. There's over 500,000 reported offences. That's the important phrase, reported, because the vast majority of shopkeepers don't report. If somebody steals something and runs off, they don't report it because there's no point. What you're just inconveniencing yourself. They only report it if they grab hold of the guy and then the police come and then do something about it. But the fact that we're importing crime, it's just incredible. It's just amazing. But why wouldn't they steal, in a sense? Why doesn't anybody steal? In times past, Alex, the shoplifter used to go in the shop, didn't they, and surreptitiously hide the stuff and sneak out and all that. No, they go in with a basket and fill it up and just simply walk out of the door.
It's crazy. Apparently there's now 3 thefts every minute. 3 thefts every minute.
But why wouldn't you? Only 1% of thefts are solved. You have 99 out of 100 chances of getting away with it. And even if you get caught, you'll go in front of the magistrate and you won't go to jail. You'll get some tempo.
And if you're an asylum seeker, no one knows where you come from, you're undocumented, nothing seems to happen to you. And what's even worse is one particular Labour council are offering asylum seekers half-price e-bikes. Here's your getaway vehicle, lovelies. I mean, it's just, come on.
Mike, can I get to the bottom of these crime statistics, though? Because, you know, everyone here listening and watching will feel like crime is getting worse in the major cities particularly. And that at the same time, I hear from wet Lib Dem types like Fraser Nelson that, you know, no, crime's actually continuing to go down. It's never been better. Where is the truth here? Is crime actually getting worse, or is that just a fiction of the Murdoch press?
It's getting worse, and I'll tell you why it's got worse. For example, look at burglaries. In the times past, whether you were rich or poor, if somebody broke into your house and stole your television set, you would ring the police, and your expectation would be that the police would come and they'd be nice and give you good service, and that they would patrol around and hopefully they would catch the thief and they'd bring your television back, okay? People now report burglary. They have no expectation at all that the police might turn up, and they certainly have no expectation that the burglar will be caught and the television will be brought back. So all they report it for is a crime number, so that they can claim the insurance.
Yeah, no.
But if you're poor and you don't have insurance, well, why bother doing that?
Yeah.
So many crimes are no longer reported. I was at Charing Cross station. Guy rode by on a bike. He had his hand on my phone. He missed it.
Yeah.
But he grabbed the guy's next to mine and off he went.
Yeah.
I helped the bloke out who'd had his phone stolen, said, oh, the police station's around the corner. Why would I report that? What's the point? Yeah. Because no one's going to do anything about it.
And they're closing. The police are closing multiple police stations as well. Mike, I'm afraid we've got to call it time on the interview now because we've got to get to an advert break. But Mike Neville, fantastic there, retired Scotland Yard Detective Chief Inspector. Apparently this weekend is going to be one of the busiest weekends for travel, and who better better to guide us through all of the hiccups and obstacles that might lie between you getting from A to B than the one and only travel guru, Simon Calder. He's coming up after the break.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, welcome back to the show. Now, if you're a lucky thing planning to go away on hollybobs, or maybe just go on a nice little trip around Britain, today might be the day that you decide to do it, because it's predicted to be one of the busiest weekends for travel. So that means, no doubt, things are not going to go smoothly. To find out more, let's speak to Simon Calder, travel correspondent at The Independent. Good morning, Simon.
Good morning from Istanbul, Alex, and I managed to get here last night. It was a very, very long and slow old journey. Finally got in at about 2:45 in the morning, but I'm delighted to say I got up early to have a good old look around, and actually the chances are that, yeah, there's delays pretty much everywhere on the roads, on the railways, on the ferries and on the planes, but almost everybody will get there eventually. There's a few trouble spots, exactly as you say, though. Busiest day of the year, busiest weekend of the year for getaways. My flight was so full that they actually had British Airways staff travellers, so they worked for BA, and they were sitting on the jump seats on the plane in order to get to Turkey last night. There's so many seats full, which is why, if you're going to see cancellations, as I am this morning on EasyJet out of Gatwick to both Faro and to Porto in Portugal, that's very unfortunate, because difficult to see how people will get there. One was a technical reason, second one was plane being stuck in Paris overnight. But that's most regrettable. Everyone else, though, is sort of getting there. 1 hour delay at Dover, getting through French passport control if you're sailing over to Calais or to Dunkirk.
I mean, is this simply then just about volume and all of the services being sort of very heavily weighed upon because more people than normal are getting away? Or are there things like planned disruptions or strikes or other things that we should be looking out for?
That's a great question. Yeah, as you will appreciate from your travels, the infrastructure in the UK is perhaps not as good as it might be in terms of airports and everything else. And so that's really showing the strain, particularly at the big airports, Heathrow, Gatwick, Stansted, Manchester, Edinburgh, Birmingham, Luton, and so on. But on top of that, we have got some, as it were, planned disruptions, strikes in Portugal, which are seeing some cancellations, nothing actually much. And talking to Ryanair, to EasyJet and to TUI, there are no big problems at the moment with any of those issues. And then, well, usual old rail engineering problems. So the line from Macclesfield to Stoke-on-Trent has been blocked this morning, and that's usual thing. A train hit an obstruction, they've closed it down, and they will now hopefully get it all back and running. But wherever you're going, hope for the best, be prepared for delays and disruption.
Leaves on the line, which is the famous announcement, isn't it? Before I let you go, Simon, I'm going to throw a curveball at you because it's just popped in my head. I was reading the other day in the press about Spanish airports being inundated with rough sleepers, including some British expats, that people are sort of shacking up and basically living in airports in Spain.
Yeah, the thing about airports is that they tend to be open 24 hours, which is very handy. Certainly the bigger airports are. There's very few actual controls on people coming and going. There's always, including in UK airports, you go to Stansted at 5 o'clock in the morning, there are people who have spent the night there ready for their early flight because they don't want to pay for an airport hotel. And yeah, I dare say there will be some action taken soon because it's not particularly sanitary and it's not great for an airport. But I'm happy to admit I've slept in a couple of airports before now. Oslo, very nice airport, when I couldn't get a hotel anywhere for love nor money, and also Calgary when I think I got in at 1 o'clock in the morning. There is even a website called sleepingatairports.net. But I know that your lovely listeners and viewers perhaps will have better ideas than that.
Yeah, no, indeed. I'm sure we've all slept in an airport in times past. We've all been faced with the late flight where you have to try and sort of get into fetal position with your travel bag as your pillow. I'm not above it. Simon, thank you ever so much. And thank you for getting up so early in wonderful Istanbul. Go and enjoy the Blue Mosque and the Hagia Sophia. It's a gorgeous city. In fact, ever been to Istanbul?
I have. Yeah.
Have you ever been to those amazing water tanks underground?
Yeah, I have.
They are so cool. It's like something from Ghostbusters.
Yeah, it's fantastic. One of my favourites, and it's the mix of East and West coming together, which is fantastic.
Well, less of the West these days because, basically Erdogan's turning everything back into a giant mosque, even if it once was a cathedral. It's like, no, not doing that anymore.
It may be blasphemous. I was just thinking as well as that conversation was trucking along, I've slept in the prayer room of a particular
the multi-faith room.
Yeah, the multi-faith room. Very uncomfortable night. Anyway, let's go.
Do you know what? I discovered an airport hotel in Gatwick, which is right in the heart of the hotel, right in the heart of the airport. You sort of go through, you check your bags in, then just walk into some place. And it's a little box. It's quite fine if you've got a really early flight. And there's this massive Wetherspoons there, and it's sort of open 24/7. Nothing starts the Great British Holiday better than a pint of lager from a Spoons at 6 in the morning.
So look, I've long been a great defender of Spoons as a British institution.
I love Wetherspoons.
I saw a story yesterday of a particular Wetherspoons turning away a customer who was in a Union Jack dress. So and by the way, if anyone listening has seen that story on Twitter, I saw it yesterday, and has any further information, let me know. But that is a real black mark, if that's the case.
The greatest man in hospitality, Tim Martin, would not be for that.
I would have thought so.
I'm absolutely certain. He was a big backer of Brexit. He's got that amazing Wetherspoons news, which is like unbridled patriotism and common sense.
It just sounded so unspoons.
Out of all the people in the world who should be given a knighthood, he's number one on my list.
Yep.
Because Wetherspoons has done such a great job. Other bars and pubs are available, of course, but it's a brilliant job of protecting beautiful old theatres, cinemas, these gorgeous buildings. It has an amazing array of booze, loads of craft beers, very affordable prices, the subsidised pensioners' dinners. It's amazing. Such an institution.
But the thing is, as well, it is a forum for community in an age where we are losing those types of institutions, where we are becoming more isolated, where we are becoming more lonely. It is a way for people to be able to connect over a pint. I think it is fantastic, but I do have concerns about that one little story.
Well, I'm sure, like I said, I'm sure that once Mr. Martin learns about it, Sir Tim, as he should be, in my world. Love him. Right, we're going to be taking a short break now, but don't go anywhere, because when we come back, it is time for your weekend dose of all the sports, and it's a busy weekend indeed. That's after this.
10K cash for Coldplay.
Play 10k cash for Coldplay with 10 grand in your hand tax-free plus 6 super hot tickets to witness Coldplay's sold-out Music of the Spheres tour from a VIP box at Wembley Stadium on August 22nd.
Tickets, top tunes and 10 grand cash.
Don't panic. Enter to play 10k for Coldplay at talksport.com/win and get ready for the feel-good gig of the summer. 10k for Coldplay is a joint TalkSport Limited competition run on TalkSport, Talk and Virgin Radio. See talksport.com for terms and conditions.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, welcome back, and we're joined in the studio by the wonderful, gorgeous Tom Clayton, our favourite of the Talk Sports presenters and
far
reporters.
nicer than what David Bully used to call me.
What did he used to call you?
Well, I can't repeat it on radio. So.
All right. Well,
but no,
I want to know now. You can't just dangle a sort of tits like that and deny us.
Well, I mean, I can dangle whatever I like. Thank you very much. But anyway, happy Saturday morning.
Happy Saturday morning, and what a bumper weekend of sport it is going to be. This young man has already said to me that he'll stay with me until 10 o'clock. Then he's got to get himself to a pub because it's a rugby weekend.
It is a massive rugby weekend. It's the first time the British and Irish Lions could win the opening 2 tests of a series since 1997.
Wow.
So a lot on the line for the Lions today. Some people calling it historic. It's interesting because we had a preview show last night on TalkSport in which Lawrence Dallaglio was talking. He's a legend of the rugby game, and he was saying he actually has more pride in the fact that he won a series with the British and Irish Lions than he won the World Cup.
Really?
Yeah, he says playing for the Lions was the be-all and end-all for him. So it shows it's just such a massive thing for these players.
Yeah.
And it also shows, interestingly, the decision by a chap called Gary Ringrose this week, who decided to withdraw from the squad despite being selected because he was still concerned about his concussion protocol. So he's never played for the Lions before as well. He's never been given an official test cap. But he's basically said, because I'm concerned for my health, I don't want to put myself forward this week. Now, hopefully he gets a chance to play next week. But I think it's really interesting that we're starting to see sportsmen, sports stars, really prioritising their health over personal gain.
No, it's interesting, isn't it? I always say the reason I like rugby and Formula One so much is because there's a real risk of maiming and death. And if it doesn't involve that, it's not gladiatorial enough for me. Football, like, meh.
I played rugby for 25 years, and an old coach called rugby fundamentally a violent disagreement. Now, in this game today, last week, the Wallabies lost that violent disagreement. They were really soft in the contact zone, and you could tell the Lions, when they were making contact, they were bigger, they were stronger, and that is why they won that game. The Wallabies have reinforced their team with 2 very big bodies in Rob Valentini and Will Skelton in the forwards. Will Skelton, of course, plays in France and has been the kryptonite for Leinster over many years now. So hopefully they will be able to be more dominant in that physical battle. It would be great to see this series go to a decider in Sydney, 1-1. I give the Wallabies a 30 to 40% chance, but it would be great to see this to see some jeopardy in the third game.
2 important things that I want to ask you, young William, and I was going to ask Tom. So first of all, young William, now you've come over to the United Kingdom as a keen rugby fan. Which is your club?
Bath.
Wrong answer! Oh my goodness! I can't believe I lied you in the studio. Oh, that is so dirty. That is the dirtiest of all. Get away from that wrecking. Get in the shed.
I love going to a rugby game, Bath.
You don't know the right West Country.
If it makes you feel any better, I'd probably primarily follow rugby league because I'm from the north.
Well, there you go.
So,
it's a weird version of rugby, but lots of things are weird.
It's great fun.
And also the other question, I think Tom and I can play a game. What position do you reckon Will played in rugby? He ain't second row, was he? He's not. He's not tall enough for that. And I don't think he looks fleet of foot enough to be a winger.
I would say either a back row or a centre.
So I moved to the back row in the later part of my very mediocre career, but I started as a hooker. I was a bit bigger and chunkier.
Well, would you believe I played front row? I mean,
I do believe that, Tom.
I mean, I remember once a few years ago, TalkSport had Jose Mourinho in as a special guest. It was all fantastic, wow. And he was talking to everyone in the studio. Looked at me and he said, "You didn't play football, did you?" I said, "No, I played rugby." He said, "Yeah, good."
That's a nice way of saying you're more robustly built than Gary Lineker.
But let's put it this way: when it comes to the line-out time, I was either one doing the lifting or doing the throwing, and basically. When he talks about the physical thing, it was my job to catch the ball, run forward, and maybe make a metre.
Just smash into things.
The other thing, just to bring it back to the Lions game, Owen Farrell, not Owen Farrell, his father, Andy Farrell, has basically made the goal of this team to be a great Lions team. This isn't a great Wallabies team, sadly, at the moment. Unlike if they were playing New Zealand or the Springboks, if they won, that would be fantastic. Whereas here, they really want to win 3-0 and they really want to be dominant. So that will be the goal for them today.
Be exciting to watch for sure.
It's going to be and to listen to.
And to listen to. There you go, live on TalkSport from Lions to Lionesses as well, because we learned this is Spain who's going to be facing our footballing ladies in the final tomorrow night.
It is the second major tournament in a row where England are going to be playing Spain in the final in the women's game. Of course, Spain came out on top in the Football World Cup that was in Australia last time out. And I think Spain are still the favourites. England have gone through in remarkable circumstances both times. Bear in mind, in the semi-finals, it took an added time goal from Michelle Aguimang to get us into extra time. Then, almost an added time in extra time, Chloe Kelly scored off the rebound of a penalty to get us through. So the Lionesses coming into this having basically just fielded drama right the way through the tournament, having lost to France in the opening day. Meanwhile, Spain have had a fairly straightforward go of it, to be honest.
That's going to be a very exciting final to watch. And go our girls, because I'm not a big fan of football, and even less, I think, women. No, actually, not even less. Probably more. I probably prefer women's football more. But I know so many young teenage girls who love this. And genuinely, there are so many girls around the country who are now very much into the Lionesses, and I think that's beautiful.
And particularly now they decided to stop taking the knee before games. That's an extra win. Which, by the way, why were they still taking the knee up until...
Oh, everyone had given up on that 2 years ago. Like, get up already. No one's proposing.
Should also mention live on TalkSport tomorrow afternoon at 5 o'clock.
That is your job to do that. It's all live on TalkSport. Now,
absolutely.
More up my Strasse is what is going on in the Ardennes Forest this weekend. Because if you go down to the woods today, you might see a little bit of action on Eau Rouge, because it is the Belgian Grand Prix, one of the greatest on the racing calendar.
One of the absolute greats. Sadly, not one of the surprises that you'll see, because Oscar Piastri, another Australian, is at the front of the grid. He's on pole. He's so good. I think he's a shoo-in for the World Championship.
Amazing in his second season.
Incredible.
They all fought over him. There was a bidding war to get Oscar Piastri in the Formula One teams, because he'd been talent spotted young on.
What was remarkable was he had a junior contract with Alpine, the French team. Then Alpine announced him as a driver. He said, "I've not agreed to that," and then actually about a week later said, "I've actually agreed to drive for McLaren." So it was all drama to kick off his career, and then he's just built up so well.
Which, of course, technically is an Antipodean team, McLaren.
Absolutely,
Not British. Bruce McLaren.
Yeah, he's a Kiwi.
Bruce.
Oh, right.
Yeah, not one of yours, though.
No.
But no, it's an amazing circuit. And we've actually got the sprint race today,
we have. So just to let you know about the format, so basically there'll be a shortened race today at 11 o'clock, which is 1/3 of the distance for normal Grand Prix. Then we'll have normal Grand Prix qualifying at normal time at 3 o'clock this afternoon. And then tomorrow, 2 o'clock, Grand Prix as usual. Very excited.
The things I get to do while packing up my house to move, I cannot wait. I think we've got to let you go, haven't we? You've normally got your own bulletin to do.
Yeah, I've got my job to do.
Right, you've got to go and sort of remember your rugby past and crawl 1 metre on your hands and knees out the door.
Yeah, I'll crouch behind and engage out the studio.
There you go. Thank you ever so much, Tom Clayton. What do we say now in rugby? Because I get really confused at the new it's...
Touch, bind, set. When I was playing, it was crouch, touch, pause, engage.
Yeah,
so they've
I prefer
simplified.
That. Yeah, they have, haven't they? I preferred the old. I prefer.
Well, look, if you look at the scrums from the 1970s, 1980s, it's just the blokes. They all just bind up like this, and then they all just bend over at the same time, and then just go.
Could you imagine, when you see those rugby players evolve? Because I was brought up on when the Leicester Tigers had letters on the back of their kits, and it's still amateur. And you had people like Rob Andrew as our fly half, who was also a surgeon or something in his spare time. And then the two Underwood brothers, I adored them and their excitable mother.
Well, I will
they were
say,
Malaysian, I think.
I will
and
say
they were RAF pilots.
Yeah, well, Tom Robertson, the reserve prop for the Wallabies today, is a qualified doctor. He went to Cambridge, so this isn't completely dead. Jamie Roberts, a great Welsh centre who retired recently,
doing his medical degree while playing for Wales.
And he is starting his career as a resident doctor in Wales at the end of this Lions tour. So
is he?
If Jamie's listening, I'm sure he is. Good luck with the next stage of your career.
Pub, as they say in Wales. No, it's an amazing sport. I don't know what I'm going to have to be sort of like, the rugby on one screen, the sprint race on another, with my mum carrying beds down the stairs on her head. She's amazing. She loves both of those as well. So we'll just have to set up some sort of, Cape Canaveral of sporting excellence when we get home. What an exciting weekend for sport it is. And you can catch all of the sporting goodness live on talkSPORT. It'd be remiss if I did not give them a good old plug. Anyway, we're taking a short break now, but 2 more hours to go. Put the kettle on. Will and I will see you on the other side.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, good morning. Welcome back to the show, or welcome if you are tuning in for the very first time. I don't blame you. It is a Saturday. Getting up at 6 a.m. is a bit antisocial and inhumane, I'd say. But we did it, didn't we, Wilster?
Yeah, I do blame you if you didn't get up at 6 a.m. for this,
You missed all the
entertainment
goodness.
gold.
But you can go back and watch it.
Go back and watch it on YouTube.
Yeah, do that, because we've had so much fun.
Yeah.
Oh, so how are my teeth looking? I've just been eating my berries. I think I got blackberry.
Oh, it could be a
in my
Colgate
knackers.
ad. Look great.
Yeah, it doesn't, does it? I got
No, you're
seeds,
fine.
haven't I? Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's basically why we've got Will in the studio, because I'm trying to munch through this big bucket of fruit that they give away on our floor. And what I've noticed is, because on our floor 17, You've got TalkSport down that end, and down that end you've got Virgin Radio. And, you know, being a lovely health-driven organisation, as is News UK, they have big piles of fruit that you can help yourself to, including light cheese. I'm the only person who eats the light cheese, which I love, by the way. And what I've noticed, if you go up to the TalkSport end, because they're more interested in, like, pizza and beer, all the fruit is left behind. So I pick up berries now, because they're very good snacking during an advert break, because you can, you know, apple is not easy. You never get enough time to finish. You get juice all over your chin, whereas these are good. But it comes with the added peril of pips and stains.
Well, look,
that's what you're here for.
As all these modern media businesses are cutting costs left, right and centre, it's nice to see that the fruit is still has made it.
There you are. It has. It has. I've got a pip. Got one. Yeah, there we go. See, discreetly removed on live on air.
Oh, this is must watch.
This is must watch stuff. You don't get stuff like this on the channels, do you? Anyway, you'll be delighted to know that one of my faves is. There you go, tea. That will get the pips out.
Morning, team.
Yeah, there we are. We're gonna sort out the it's one of the good tea bags as well that I nicked from the green room. Excellente. Now we're going to be joined by one of my favourite human beings on the planet. Mr. James Price, who's also from Gloucester. Good morning to you, my babber.
All right, my love. How are you?
Lash? Oh, look at you. What a shining, radiant man you are. Okay.
You noticed.
I have a wonderful thing on my run order saying, James Price, top stories of the day. AP, can you send James stories before 7:30 a.m? Well, I didn't do that, did I? So I don't know what we're talking about, but that's fine, because we'll just talk about the top stories of the day, which we did in our first hour together. So let us, with the help now of one of the most amazing men on the planet. I'm surrounded by amazing men. Look at this. Will Kingston and James Price at the same time. Oh, no, not Will Kingston, because he hasn't got his earpiece. He can't hear a blimmin' thing. Oh no, that's it. We're getting rid of you. You're useless now. James is better anyway.
We're in danger of starting an excellent rugby team. But if your conversation before the hour is anything to go by, I wouldn't want to mess with us, would you?
I would not want to, but he does support Bath.
Oh, for God, honestly, just when you think you can trust somebody.
Just when you think you start to like somebody, it turns out they're some sort of posh ponce who likes, you know, a stupid rugby team.
The one piece of advice I was ever taught by my grandfather was to never trust somebody whose rugby team ground is called the Wreck, and so we can't be friends now, Will, I'm sorry.
I know, that's how I feel. I don't want him in my life anymore, let alone in this studio with me right now. Now I know he's been sullied.
So to listeners and viewers, just so you have context, because I've just haven't been able to get my earpiece back in time. I can hear them talk. I can see them talking about me, but I can't hear anything.
You can just hear my side of it.
Yeah, it's like being back at school.
Like being bullied?
It's being back at school and seeing the bullies at the other side of the lunchroom talking about you, but you can't hear what they're saying. Yeah.
Now, talking about bullies, one of my favourite bullies in chief, the leader of the free world, has been bullying Europe, quite rightly so, saying immigration is killing us. Shall we have a little look at the clip?
I like your Prime Minister. He's slightly more liberal than I am, as you've probably heard. But he's a good man. He got a trade deal done. And, you know, they've been working on this deal for 12...
Indeed, we could look at the clip, but for reasons beyond my comprehension, because I'm not technologically minded, we couldn't hear it. So for those of you listening on the radio, what you probably just saw was... Which isn't very entertaining, is it? But to Tracy, what Donald Trump said. It was along the lines of, you there in Europe, this mad invasion of all these illegals coming into your country is going to kill your continent. Some world leaders are getting it right and they're not getting the praise they deserve. I'm not going to name them because I actually don't know who they are. He didn't say that, but that's what I summarise. And get a grip, would you? And this is as Donald touches down in Scotland to go sniff around his golf courses and is having the pleasure of meeting John Swinney. No one talks about that man. You know, when it was Nicola Sturgeon, that's all you ever heard about. Now it's John Swinney. It's like, who? Anyway, he's blimmin' well got a point, and I love to hear it. What about you, James?
Well, just on John Swinney very quickly, he's actually a reasonably competent person, which is quite shocking for the separatists north of the border. And I did a little bit of work with him when Her late Majesty Queen Elizabeth II passed away. The Queen obviously died up in Balmoral, which I think was a very deliberate thing to do so that the world's media would be able to see how beautiful and wonderful Scotland was and how integral a part of the UK it was. And I sat in the Cobra room having to talk with John Swinney, who was very competent and could see in his heart of hearts how much better Scotland was as part of the Union. So I'll just put that quick dig in there, that I don't think the Scots and Nats' hearts are in it anymore. They know that they wouldn't be able to be half as glorious as they are without the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Just to put that quick plug in there. What I love about Trump in this is that within, 55 seconds of touching down and coming down the steps, he's already making major news headlines. I mean, there's no one else better in the world at doing it. And on his analysis, it may be a little rough and ready, but can you really disagree with the diagnosis of it? And I think when you see the scale of immigration, of illegal immigration from their southern border under the Biden years, and the fact that it has basically completely stopped now, I think last month not a single illegal crossing actually happened over that border, you start to realize that, well, perhaps this was just a deliberate act by the last Biden administration. And therefore, you could see why, when the same thing is happening right across Europe, Trump might be given to think that it's not just incompetence, but a deliberate policy choice that we're having the third world coming into Europe.
I mean, whoa. I got two big questions for you off the back of that little knowledge dump there. First of all, you've been in committee briefing room A.
I've got a load of maybe they're around here somewhere. I managed to pinch a load of the Cobra pens.
There's Cobra pens? There's Cobra merch?
There's Cobra stash, don't you worry.
What on earth are the taxpayer funding in that joint?
I think having pens in our major situation rooms.
Yeah, but did they actually say like Cobra on them?
Oh yeah, I'll bring one into the studio next time I'm ready. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, cool.
This was under the ill-fated Truss premiership that we all try and forget about, and I was the chief of staff in the cabinet office. Fortunately, I was locked away for the first couple of weeks working on the Queen's funeral prep rather than the kind of shambles that was happening above ground. So I hope I managed to avoid most of the car crash that happened.
You're a man of many lives. I want to do a sort of like, this is your life, and get the old red book out, find all your friends from Gloucester and actually discover what on earth you've been doing on behalf of UK PLC as a government spad. There you go. So James has not only been in committee briefing room A, he's got the merch. Who knew it even existed? And what was my number 2 question? I cannot remember it whatsoever because I'm so distracted by the fact that you've been in the committee briefing room. So let's just go straight on to the other element of this. Oh no, that's what it was. The fact that you said, and this is what I want to drill down in, and I've always said this, if they wanted to stop the mass migratory flows into Europe, all these illegals coming up, they could. We know it because Australia's done it. We know it because America is doing it. And you just said there that, it's amazing that Biden let this happen, which and sort of suggested that it was willful. And this is the thing. A lot of people out there are beginning to get a bit tinfoil hat about this, especially as we learn increasingly the crimes associated with these asylum seekers. There's an assessment in the Telegraph that 75% of the sort of luxury goods shoplifting taking place in the West End of London is being done by the people that we're paying to be in the hotels. We've had statistics that 1 in 100 of the people who've come over on boats are committing crimes. We've had an idea of, when it comes to sex attacks and sexual harassment, quite what they're up to. We've had reports of people who work in these hotels. They've got knives under their bed, stacks of cash, working in the black market, making porn films. I mean, it's so crazy. The government surely by now has every single opportunity to declare a national emergency, which would enable them to circumvent all of their international law that Lord Hermer loves so much, and actually do something about this. Why aren't they? Why aren't they?
That is the right question. Why aren't they? And again, look at the American example for a second. That you don't need to put on the tinfoil hat, although I've got one spare just in case. But you had a
Does it have a committee briefing room A on it by any chance?
No comment. If you look at one of the Democratic congresswomen from New York, she said the quiet part out loud, to quote Krusty the Clown, the bit that you're not supposed to say, which was, I need all these illegal immigrants coming in here for redistricting purposes. Now, what that means is that in the American election every time, you have a set number of seats in the lower house of representatives in Congress, but that changes based on the population of the different states. Whilst each state has 2 senators, so California with its 60-odd million people only gets 2, and Montana with a handful of people also get 2, congressmen get different amounts. So even though they're losing various states, if they think millions and millions of these illegal immigrants can pile into, for example, California, they will eventually become citizens, and then California, which is very left-wing, will get a lot more Congress votes, and therefore they can take that lower house back. So it's pure politics when it comes to America. And you've got to think that something similar is happening over here when you look at how reliant the Labour Party are becoming on more recent arrivals and how in hock they are to various sectarian and ethnic groupings, how terrified Angela Rayner is of losing her seat, and Wes Streeting is going to lose his seat as well, to a bunch of people who care much more about what's happening in Gaza or the Punjab or Kashmir or somewhere than what's happening in England. It maybe makes a little bit more sense, doesn't it? And then, of course, there's the fact, as Dominic Cummings said, that it would be triflingly easy for us to actually stop these dinghies. You just need to go down the coast in Calais with a box cutter and slash some of them up, let alone setting, the nasty gits in the SAS to go and save us.
Well, no, exactly. We know it can be done, and we're constantly gaslit that it can't, but we know that they're lying to us. It's so evidently clear. And we know that, like Will was saying earlier, and I totally agree with this, economic disaster is the sort of thing that it can actually be reversed with sensible economic policies. Once you've changed the cultural makeup of your country and completely changed the demographics, it is almost impossible to ever rectify that. I want to talk now about shoplifting and crime epidemics. There's 3 thefts every single minute now. It has become so lawless out there, particularly in London. Again, a lot of this stuff tied to international crime, to international gangs. We've imported a whole amount of crime into this country. This isn't like, Peaky Blinders in the Victorian era, people in flat caps going around, got to pick a pocket or two, son. This is very professional, very dangerous, usually fueled by gangs, whether it be from Albania or Vietnam or China. And again, it comes down to open borders.
Yeah, it does. I mean, actually, I think it's connected to your last very, very important point that you and Will have been talking about culture. Roger Scruton, the great conservative philosopher, said the essence of conservatism is the understanding that things are very hard to build and very hard to maintain and very easy to destroy. And once things are destroyed, it's then hard to build again. And so we had a situation in Britain in the 1950s where our murder rate was half the level that it is in Japan today, which is a very safe and peaceful society, probably because they don't have a lot of immigration in Japan. And we were in a situation where you would have honesty boxes all over the place. You could leave a penny and take a newspaper. And you had somebody like Lee Kuan Yew, who's the sort of founding prime minister of the independent Singapore, who came over to England to study, and he couldn't get his nut around this. Wait, so I leave a penny and I take a paper. Why don't people take all of the papers? Well, that's not the done thing, because we lived in a high trust society. And he set about creating that in Singapore. It's now the safest place in the world. And we've gone entirely the other direction, where you have to lock everything behind bits of plastic in Tesco's and places in London now, because otherwise they're all going to get nicked, because we've let in so many people who don't give a monkeys about contributing to society. They don't want to live a first world life. They want to live a third world life in the first world, where it's a lot easier because we're such damn soft touches with people these days. And that's what we've got to fix if we're going to get our high trust culture and society back again.
I'm just literally watching the video that's being played next to your face there, and it shows security guards standing the other side of shop doors, and like feral baboons, all the men trying to pull those doors open forcibly and barge their way in. The audacity of this. I was having dinner in Covent Garden the other day, and I noticed all the jewellery shops have no window displays because thugs will happily just smash the windows in broad daylight, scoop up all the things on offer, get on one of these e-scooters and nick off. And you learn now that, there's a lot of migrant gangs, either albeit illegal migrants or people in this country quite legally doing all of this stuff. I mean, look at them in that video. Their hoods up, their masks on, just like middle of the day, grabbing everything from the shelf, filling up their bags, out they go. A lot of that stuff will end up in vans going across the continent of Europe or being sold around the back of dodgy takeaway shops. The audacity of crime now in the country is what is so terrifying. And yet, increasingly, idiot political leaders just seem to want to help these people. I learned that there's a Labour-led council, that's offering asylum seekers half-price e-bikes. They're basically giving them getaway vehicles.
It's enough to make a cat laugh, isn't it? The bit that's so frustrating about this, much as with the migrant crossings, is that the solution to fixing it is incredibly simple, right? The vast majority of these crimes are committed by a small number of repeat offenders and people who get literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of convictions and maybe go into prison for a short stay, probably learn some new thieving skills and then come back out again. The solution is just to lock all of these people up for a very long time, and then we can be nice and cuddly and help rehabilitate them and help them with their GCSE maths that they didn't get because, oh, mum and dad didn't care to help them do their homework or whatever the sob story is. But fundamentally, if we just locked all of these people away, Britain would become a paradise again, and you could focus on looking after your family and building your business and getting on with your life and all the rest of it. And people will say, well, we don't have enough prison places. It's not that complicated to build a box with a lock on a door on the outside. In an age in which we're about to have humanoid robots, we've made an alien form of intelligence out of making sand be able to think with AI, basically, is what's happened there. And Elon Musk can catch 40-story high skyscraper-sized rockets out of the air with Mechazilla arms. I think we can build a few prison spaces and stick these people in it and get our country back.
I totally agree. Look, very quickly, because we haven't actually mentioned this story yet today, which is the doctors are going on strike, apparently. It's not all of them. There's a crowd of about 40 junior doctors at the moment standing out St Thomas Hospital. The BMA ringleader had decided that enough is enough. They want to put down their fair play placards and head for the nearest train station instead. Wes Streeting, actually, all credit to him, is standing up to these sort of militant doctors who think that going on strike is perfectly fair when they've already had a 30% pay rise. The reason I haven't covered this story much is because, credit where credit's due, most doctors are not joining in this industrial action. But those they are mean that hospitals could face paying £8,000 a shift to just having people on call.
It's wild, isn't it? There's that old Kipling poem, if you pay the Dane Geld, you'll never get rid of the Dane. And Wes Streeting and his Labour mates have unfortunately learned that. I think Streeting is the best they've got, by the way, on a whole manner of things, for abolishing the NHS England quanga. I'm not sure I could ever tell you what that was supposed to do. Right. And for standing firm against these people who are doing this. I do think that, and Will's take would be interesting on this, because it seems that doctors in Australia are paid a lot of money and they're pinching a lot of good British doctors that we spend a lot of money training up. So I do think that, there is an argument that people with high skills should be paid a lot. But the way you do that is to let the market decide and to have more market engagement rather than the NHS we've got at the moment, which the open secret everybody now knows is just not a very good system. And I think that's the big problem.
Exactly.
The personal part on this is that I broke my leg a couple of years ago on a day when there was a junior doctor's strike, and hobbling out in a taxi on a leg that turned out to be broken into A&E, and seeing them literally say, "Oh, Tarquin, go and get me another skinny oat flat latte," whatever it was. It did not endear me to these people, and I do
tell
think
you what,
that
you made a big mistake. I bust my ankle in Belgium, had to have Meccano put in it. Best hospital experience I've ever had. Seriously, the Belgian hospitals and the private sector, absolutely sick, as Will would say. James, thank you ever so much. Always wonderful to catch up with you. Now, very quickly, Will, because you couldn't hear what James was saying, but he wanted to ask you something, so I'm going to have to convey the question, which is, loads of UK doctors seem to qualify and nick off to Australia because they might get paid better, or at least they get to go to a beach. It's a private system, isn't it? A semi-private system in Australia. What's your healthcare like down under?
It's a blended system. So this is actually something Australia has done better than the UK. So you have a public system, which is the equivalent of the NHS. It's fully funded by the taxpayer. But you also have a much stronger private healthcare system. So you've got, a completely parallel private healthcare system. So think private emergency departments, private ICUs, as well as private surgery.
And do people have insurance with their work, basically? Or is it an optional thing that you pay privately?
You pay privately, but there are government rebates in order to get private health insurance, particularly if you earn over a certain amount. It actually becomes more cost effective to get private. So the proportion of people who have private health insurance in Australia is much greater. That alleviates the pressure on the public healthcare system.
And this is sort of the American nightmare where you've got people with clipboards running around after ambulances and you can't get this because insurance says no.
No, it works better. So the easiest way to describe it is if America is too privatised and corporate and the UK is too socialised and public, Australia is probably right about in the middle.
Like the European system, basically, like the healthcare system in Belgium, where you have state hospitals and private hospitals, and the private hospitals like staying at the blooming Ritz.
Yeah,
amazing.
The lesson is you've got to have a public system in healthcare, but also you need to have a strong private system to take the pressure off that public system. It's where the UK doesn't have the balance right. Australia actually has done it well.
I'll tell you what, we've got to go to break, but just very quickly, it's funny, I was reading that the IMF, they're sniffing around ready to give us the handout.
I saw that.
They've basically said you've either got to get rid of the NHS or tax everybody more. So there you go. Put that in your pipe and smoke it, BMA. We're going to take a short break now. When we come back, it is going to be the big old left versus right, head to head. The biggest ding-dong you'll get on the airwaves. That's coming up after this.
So the police have basically banned anybody from going outside the Bowl Hotel to demonstrate in any way, shape or form. Is that right?
To be fair, this is the first I've heard of it. We had a planned demonstration this evening,
right,
which has been planned for the past week. The problem is that these demonstrations have been taken over by a political agenda, by left and right, which is absolutely ridiculous. Right. This is not anything, this is not a political fight.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, welcome back to the show. And it is time, because it's that time, for this. Oh, well, we were going to have the sting. This happened the other weekend, actually. It was like, it's time for this, and I was just left hanging. OK, I'm going to pretend I am the sting. It's time for this. Head to head. There you are, seamlessly.
No expense spared.
No expense spared, because we're joined in the studio by the wonderful Andy Williams, political commentator representing the left, and our very own weekend editor, my boss, basically.
Well, former technically, because I don't really weekend edit anymore.
No, that's true. No. It's that crazy sockless Dean.
It's Dean's job now.
Dean.
Yeah.
Yeah, who's actually in Ibiza. at the moment.
When I know, yes. He's having a lovely time, isn't he?
So who is my boss today? No, nobody. I'm just like, you know, I like to run
Dan can be
riot.
the boss, can't he?
Dan is the boss. Yeah, Dan's been sitting in that gallery every time I'm missing my advert breaks, heaving and sighing. I'm like, you don't work with me very often, do you? My timekeeping ain't the best, Dan. You will learn. Anyway, guys, shake hands, make eye contact, have some love.
We already have, because we've known each other for 7 years or something like that,
So
and we've
actually,
never
this is
argued in public, only ever in private.
Yeah.
Did you invite him to your wedding?
No.
Oh, well, look.
I know. I think the invitation got lost in the post.
Yeah,
so
it
I
did.
don't.
Yeah. Because I commented on the fact that Andy has come in with a beautiful tan. He's been on his honeymoon in Marbella. Congratulations.
Thank you very much indeed.
You do look very gorgeous. Now, let us kick off with the arrival of DJ Trump in Scotland, because, you know, he never likes to arrive quietly, never knowingly understated. And as he touched down, or left off, I'm not sure. No, it's when he touched down. He decided to throw in his two-bit about the immigration situation in Europe. Let's have a little look.
I mean, there's a couple of things I could say, but on immigration, you better get your act together, or you're not going to have Europe anymore. You got to get your act together. And we, you know, as you know, last month we had nobody entering our country. Nobody. Shut it down. And we took out a lot of bad people that got there with Biden. Biden was a total stiff. And what he allowed to happen, but you're allowing it to happen to your countries. And you got to stop this horrible invasion that's happening to Europe, many countries in Europe. Some people, some leaders have not let it happen. And they're not getting the proper credit they should. I could name them to you right now, but I'm not going to embarrass the other ones. But stop. This immigration is killing Europe.
I mean, look, I'm sure you're not the biggest fan of either Mr. Donald or his rhetoric, but even the left have got to start thinking he's got a point. When you look at all these protests around migrant hotels, when you look at the crime statistics associated with so-called asylum seekers, I mean, we've got to get a grip on this.
Well, firstly, I think Donald Trump should mind his own business. You know, it's completely out of kilter with every other president in the United States that you would come to Britain and remark on our domestic policies.
Oh, well, not even when Barack Obama remarked on Brexit?
Well, he sort of, okay, fair enough.
I know, you can't get out of that one, sunshine.
That is a fair point. I'll give you that one. But he is none of his business. His migration policy is his, and ours should be ours. I think the answer to your question is it depends on what sort of migration you're looking at. We need a migration policy that allows a limited number of skilled people to come into the country who can do jobs that British people either don't want to or can't do.
Agreed. Legally, yes.
Through legal routes. Stop the boats is a massive problem in terms as a slogan because it's not viable. We're not going to get. Let's just be honest about this. We're not going to get to zero because we have a massive stretch of coastline, 20 miles from France, that we can't legally, unless you decide you want to run roughshod over international law, and I know that's Reform's policy, but if you believe in international law, there is no mechanism to bring the boat crossings down to zero. You can limit them, you can bring them down. I'm not saying we should just leave it, but there are clearly ways to control it, and we need to do more.
Now, it turns out that Phil's seat has been warmed by a hot Australian bottom today, and he would say to you that we managed to do it in Australia, and you can do it here.
Well, not that I necessarily agree completely with what Andy has said. The difference, of course, with Australia is they're slightly further apart between, sort of, say, the next available landmass. However, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be striving to absolutely do the same thing. As far as the boats are concerned, I completely and utterly disagree. You need to stop making it so appealing for people to come to the UK through those illegal routes. And the biggest problem we've got is that, of course, no one is addressing that actually the term illegal is the provocative and almost gaslighting word, because technically speaking, we know that they're not coming here illegally. To claim asylum, you step onto the shores of the country you wish to claim asylum in. And unfortunately, international law does state that you have to be in that country. Certainly the UK law states you have to be in that country before you can claim asylum. So if we change that, that's where it starts to make a bit of a difference. And no one is tackling that. Successive governments have never even contemplated or even said that they're going to look and see how they can change the law that says you have to step foot into a country before claiming asylum.
I mean, it does seem crackers, doesn't it, Andy, that when people are in France, or when they're in Greece, for instance, they're basically in these giant hangars, sleeping on a concrete floor of a mattress, if they're lucky. They go to France and they're having to make bivouacs out of bin bags. They come here, and it's like, oh, have you seen this lovely hotel in Canary Wharf?
No,
and have
see, this,
some
I have
food.
to. No.
Come on,
let's
mad.
completely. I have to completely push back on this. We're using hotels in the short term. By the way, Labour has said they're going to end the use of.
It's been going on for about 7 years.
Well, yeah. I mean, blame the Tories who. Who perpetrated Brexit, who then presided over the biggest wave of legal migration we've ever seen into this country.
But Starmer's giving it a good go to try and match that record, let's be honest.
I mean, to me, you have to have such an extreme amount of cognitive dissonance to think it's okay for people to come here when 1 in 100 are committing crimes, when 75% of shoplifting in the West End is being done by so-called asylum seekers, when we know especially
we don't know that.
Sex crimes connected to these men, to say, continue, we're going to put you up in a hotel. No other country in the world seems to do that.
I mean, firstly, lots of the crimes you talked about are predominantly perpetrated by people who were born here. In terms of the hotels,
yeah, but there are problems.
It is not the case that people are coming here for a life of luxury in 4- and 5-star hotels. We're using hotels to put people up in the short term while they're processed. It is this narrative, and by the way, this narrative has been going on since as long as I can remember. For decades and decades, there has been chatter about people coming here for a life of luxury, and it is a word that I can't say on.
You can't deny it's a very attractive prospect. It's a very attractive prospect the UK offers, exactly the same way that even France, under Macron, decides to put their asylum seekers into some sort of camps or sometimes tents or what have you. You know, there is no denying that people are coming here because they see the potential situation they could find themselves in whilst they're waiting for an asylum seeker case that might never be processed.
The Sun, today, these asylum seekers, so-called asylum seekers, won't leave the hotels because they want the hotels. They don't want to be put into basic accommodation. They're moaning about it not being lovely enough. And we know there's been reports on people who are coming here to live full board in a hotel, work in the black market, take the $3 grand and go home again. They're treating it like a year's paid for holiday.
And
why wouldn't you?
There are other ways to deal with this. We need digital ID cards for a start. That would stop people entering the black market. That would ensure that we knew exactly where people were working, are they paying their tax, all of those sorts of things. People wouldn't disappear into the black economy.
Do you think digital ID cards, though, for the whole nation?
Yes, I do.
So, you see, I must admit, I can understand. This shocks people because politically I don't necessarily align with a lot of things, but I understand why digital ID cards would remedy a lot of problems.
Yeah,
but I also understand why people don't want them.
Yeah.
They don't want to be monitored.
Yeah, but
and
also,
furthermore,
exactly.
Why should British citizens, hard-working, decent, tax-paying citizens, be monitored when they've not done anything wrong?
But it's not about monitoring people. That is
how it would be used.
That is just one. Well, you would obviously need to put very, very, very stringent parameters in place to make sure that didn't happen. And by the way, I do acknowledge that there are concerns about it. I mean, if the government's losing the data on those Afghans, for example, tens of thousands of records, which are very, very sensitive, we need to be concerned about where government-held data.
Well, I mean, of course, a very simple remedy to all of this could just be is as soon as someone enters the country, what we call illegally, but trying to claim asylum, put a tag on them. We have the technology in place that says that people can be tagged. When we release people who are convicted in this country from prison, tag people whilst they are claiming asylum. As soon as their asylum claim has either gone through or not, I
think you'd actually separate the genuine asylum seekers from the chances if people were put into very, very, very basic accommodation. Listen, we've got to take a short break now, but you're not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere, so don't you go anywhere either. We're back after this.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, welcome back. Now, I have just been informed by the wonderful Dan in my ear that we do actually now have the... And it's time for this!
Head to head.
That was much more convincing than me trying to do it, sounding like I was beatboxing.
I don't know, I quite enjoyed your rendition. Yeah, you see?
It's a bit Darth Vader.
Well, a bit, but yeah.
I didn't realise my voice could go that low. I sound like I'm transitioning. Anyway, let us talk
Save
now.
yourself.
This is going to get... This one. So I'm just going to sit out this one. Because on the front page of lots of newspapers is the call for Sir Keir Starmer to follow Emmanuel Macron in formally recognising a Palestinian state. All credit to Sir Keir. He said, now is not the time.
Correct.
What do you make up? There you go. Let's get in there straight away with Phil.
Okay, I tell you why now is not the time. Listen, let me declare very openly here. I'm not wholly against the idea of two-state solution, but unfortunately it's not as black and white as people think, because technically speaking, under the British Mandate of Palestine, there kind of was a two-state solution in the form of Jordan. Jordan was kind of sort of seen as the land where people who identify as Palestinian could live, but then there was sort of a bit of an uprising, Jordanians and whoever decided, no, don't want that, and that's sort of where the creation of West Bank and the Gaza Strip sort of was born out of, because Egypt didn't want people either, hence Gaza Strip has a crossing with Egypt. However, put all of that to one side. Let's just say we are here and now. I mean, I love the way people keep banging on about what happened 80 years ago. There's no point. I'm not going to go down that route either. I agree that there are some people who are truly innocent, caught up in all of this, in Gaza Strip and in the West Bank, who deserve to have a country they can call their own, right? No doubt about that. But where I have a bit of a problem is that by identifying a state of Palestine now, which, by the way, people can say it all they want, does not exist. There is no such country anymore as Palestine. It is now known as Israel. But if you were to create a state now, for as long as Hamas continues to rule, and even to some degree the Palestinian Authority continues to rule, either West Bank or Gaza, unfortunately, all that is doing is rewarding the terrorist activity.
Right, and it potentially comes down to this, doesn't it, Andy, which is the fact that to have a two-state solution, both sides need to recognise that there are two states, and I'm not sure there's much of an appetite among people like Hamas or the Palestinian Liberation Authority to wish that Israel exists.
Well, or among the Israeli government, the current Israeli government, to give Palestinians anything approaching statehood. But I mean, I broadly agree with what Phil was saying, which
this surprises me. I was expecting this one to get really spicy.
No, sorry to disappoint you, but I mean, no, I'm in favour of a two-state solution at the appropriate moment. The appropriate moment is not when you're in the middle of effectively a war. It's not when you have Hamas still controlling vast swathes of territory. It's not when Hamas still holds hostages. We know that Hamas is a terrorist organisation, and if you created Palestine today, I think you would be creating a terrorist state. I do think in the future there should be a Palestine, but that should be after Hamas have been eliminated. Now, we could have a different conversation about the way...
This is the thing, can you eliminate them? Because this is why Israel keeps plugging on and going for it, saying there's still Hamas, we're not going to cease until we've destroyed them. And everyone's going, stop the war, ceasefire, stop the war, ceasefire. And you kind of know, don't you, that the minute that the war stops, Hamas are just going to grow back like mushrooms.
Well, there will always be people... I'll defer to Phil, but there will always be people who have extremist, Islamist ideology. There always will, and they might be called different things under different banners. We had Islamic State. I think Al-Qaeda just about still exists. But some of these organisations... Yeah, the Taliban disappeared, now they're back ruling Afghanistan, and doing dreadful things there, by the way. But these groups are crushed during history, but then they re-emerge because there will always be people with the ideology. So I don't think it's realistic to think that we'll ever be in a situation that Hamas, as they currently are formulated, might cease to exist. But the ideology, I'm afraid, likely to always be there.
Actually, something we haven't spoken about today, there's a brilliant exclusive interview with young Emily Damari, who was the sort of half-British Israeli hostage taken by Gaza, kept underground in those tunnels. And she has told the UK press what her life was like there. She was in a cage. There were cockroaches running around. She was treated disgustingly, abysmally. She was so afraid to let on that she was gay because she knew she'd be automatically killed. We are dealing with absolute monsters.
Well, we are. And look, this is what really winds me up personally, when you start sort of seeing people bang on about the conditions in Gaza. Now, make no mistake, I don't think anyone can dispute looking at photos of starving children and say, oh, that's a good thing. Of course it's not a good thing, it's horrible. But the difference is, until the Western world learn who is responsible for this and who is to actually blame, the situation there is never going to change or improve. Because actually, as things stand, there is quite a lot of aid that has entered the Gaza Strip. The only reason it goes through Israel is because Israel has to monitor very carefully to make sure that, like previous swathes of aid that has entered the Gaza Strip in years gone by, way before 7th of October, that there's no hidden weaponry in there that's going to be used against Israel. That is why they have to check it. But there is actually aid there. Do you know who the biggest blockade to that aid reaching the right people is? Is Hamas. Who are Hamas being assisted by for some ridiculous reason? The UN, UNRWA.
I mean, this is crazy. I want to dig into this UNRWA thing, because I was listening to the news overnight when I was trying to nod off, and it was the whole debate of who's actually blocking the aid. UNRWA saying that we won't work with Israel to deliver the aid, we'll only work with Hamas, which is mad to me, because seemingly that's what was the accusation. We know that the UK is now going to be dropping aid, are ever going to drop aid parcels into the Gaza Strip. And I learned the other day that Hamas is actually fighting with all these other family clans who are trying to get hold of this aid to sell for profit. It's just an absolute lawless gangs of Gaza maelstrom out there.
Absolutely. And in particular, when you see the images of people being shot by the IDF whilst trying to get this aid, these are not people who are desperate for food. These are people who are trying to wreck the process for genuine people who require aid. So the reason why they are eliminated is because actually they're more than likely the people who are working for Hamas to try and steal the aid, to try and sell it on the black market, and to make people who identify as Palestinians' lives even more of a misery. Until the West wakes up and realise what is going on in the Gaza Strip, those images are going to keep coming. And frankly, they need to realise as well, if it weren't for Israel, there'd be even more people dead from starvation.
Andy, have you got any thoughts and feelings on the aid situation? It's a big one. I mean, the thing is, Western journalists are not allowed in the Gaza Strip. So you get either Hamas telling you this, Israel telling you that. A lot of the legacy media are extremely sympathetic towards the plight of Gaza. Israel holding firm, saying, look, you know, we cannot go any more years with this cancer on our doorstep. I mean, look, it is, when you look at the front page of the Mirror with that starving child, without a doubt,
this is the thing.
It is a harrowing picture.
It is.
But it is war. It is war. If you were to see what's going on in Yemen, in Sudan, again, the press doesn't care about that. This is the only picture that they want to show. It's amazing how our hearts bleed for one conflict and not any of the others.
Well, no, I mean, I think this is particularly acute, and I think the conditions in Gaza clearly are horrific.
For some.
For many, I think, for many. I heard the Israeli government spokesperson on a news programme yesterday morning, and he was very persuasive, as you would expect him to be. He's a very good communicator. And I think a lot of what he said, which Phil has just relayed, is accurate. But there is no doubt in my mind that, and this is where you have to distinguish between Israel and the Israeli government. And this Israeli government is, I think, being pretty negligent in terms of the way they are allowing some people on their territory, in their country, starve. That is absolutely categorically happening. There's no doubt about it. And I think the fact that there is such international condemnation is unsurprising. You know, the United States is basically the only country now that hasn't said to Israel, you have gone a bit too far. And I do think they have.
They have gone too far because Hamas has gone that far. That is the problem.
Yeah,
so as
there's
much,
always two
as
sides
much
to all the
as,
hostages were released.
as much as I understand why people look at it and think this is a disproportionate response to what happened on the 7th of October, I personally don't see it like that. I understand why people think it, because unfortunately they're constantly drip-fed this nonsense coming out of the Gaza Strip, and it is nonsense because it comes from Hamas. Now, some people might say, well, if you allowed international journalists in, actually they'd see it. Do you know, I think there was actually something that Colonel Richard Kemp, who's obviously frequently on this channel, he put something out on social media, I think it was yesterday, last 24 hours, 48 hours, something like that, where he actually said that there were some international journalists allowed into the Gaza Strip. Shock, horror, one of the first things they saw were the piles of aid that are actually waiting. Now, they've gone through Israeli checkpoint, piles of aid that are being waited to be delivered to those who need it, and it is not Israel that is causing that blockade. And that was the first thing that was revealed from international journalists. So personally, although I know it is in the name of security and it's in the name of a very sensitive operation that we have to be very careful to make sure that international journalists don't screw up what Israel is trying to achieve here, and that's one of the main reasons they're not allowed in. I actually think if international journalists were allowed in, then maybe people would finally start to see the truth.
Well, but the other thing I think is in this day and age, everyone's got a blimmin' mobile phone where they can film things, can't they? And
well, it's amazing the number of people who identify as Palestinian who've got a mobile phone. It's incredible. They've allegedly got no electricity, no food, yet they've got charging their mobiles.
Right. We actually do have to go to a break, unfortunately, chaps. And after the break, we'll have to move on to more news stories because I know there's one that you want to chew over. We've been asking the audience today what Jeremy Corbyn should call his new party. Some interesting suggestions indeed, and that is what we're going to be discussing after these short commercials.
Over the years, what has been revealed about Corbyn and his kind, and it's at this point, it's kind of sad. I mean, I almost feel like someone needs to just put their arm around him and say, Jeremy, it's, you know, it's done. It is so over. And I think this, I mean, I've been a few Tory people that I speak to, you know, oh, this can be quite helpful in, you know, splitting the Labour Party.
When me, you, people at home, the viewers and listeners here see on the TV the police escorting people who are fully masked up, who are actually giving lifts to people, what does this look like? It just looks so bad. I mean, trust and confidence in the police is at rock bottom. This nation used to have the best police force in the world. It was the envy of the world that people trusted the police. They saw them as decent and friendly, firm but fair. And now they see this. It's just appalling in my view.
Across the UK. On DAB+. On your smart speaker. On your smart TV. And on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, welcome back. And I want to give a big old shout out to my new favourite politician, Mr. Jeremy Corbyn, for splitting the vote on the left. Bring it on, sunshine.
Careful what you wish for, Alex.
Well, I know. But let's talk about Corbyn's party. I can't stick his politics. I can't stick the sort of people he's going to try and appease and attract. But these people exist. They need some sort of vehicle to vote for. Before it was going to be the pro-Palestine MPs. I would far rather, actually, there be a party headed by Corbyn to attract those votes than anything else.
Good Lord, there's words I never thought I'd hear you say.
I know. Well, no, but I just feel like I
know what
feel
you mean,
more
though.
comfortable
No, I
having
agree.
Jezbollah than, you know, the alternative, frankly speaking. I do. But what is interesting is looking at the polling, it's already having a huge amount of sign-up. Apparently they're boasting they've already got more people signing up to them than Reform of members.
Sure, but how many newsletters do you have coming into your inbox every day that you signed up for once to get a 10% discount code on this or that? I mean, none of these people have paid. It's easy to put your email address into a box and click yes. Zara Sultana and Jeremy Corbyn posted at almost the same time different numbers in terms of the number of sign-ups. He said 200,000, she said 180.
It's like the
it's quite a big
Chuckle
difference.
Brothers watching those two,
Can you
isn't
imagine
it?
if Diane Abbott got involved? She'd never be able to do the
I
maths.
think she probably soon will, won't she?
Maybe she's the
booted out of
accountant.
Labour.
Can we take
Allegedly.
each of these people one at a time?
Come
So,
on, then.
Jeremy Corbyn, Magic Grandpa, you know, he's 76 years old. He's going to be 80 at the next election. So it's not viable that he's going to be sticking around in active frontline politics for much longer.
Well, we live in hope.
He is, and this is an amazing feat, he is the biggest narcissist in British politics, and that is saying something. That is saying something.
Well, more than Boris Johnson.
He's a bigger narcissist than Boris, I think, and Boris is a dreadful, dreadful narcissist. I think Nigel Farage is a mega narcissist. I mean, most people, yes, he is. Most people who get to the top of politics are narcissists, but Corbyn takes the biscuit. I mean, this guy, he wasn't happy when the party launched about 3 weeks ago because he hadn't signed it off. It's all about him. He wants it to be called the Corbyn Party, the Peace and Justice Project, whatever. It's all about him being the main man. He talked about how they're trying to escape the grip of, Starmer's iron grip on the Labour Party. You've never seen a more tightly controlled Stalinist environment than Corbyn's Labour Party. I mean, it was ridiculous. These people are not serious. Their proposals are not serious. They would bankrupt the country. Zara Sultana is the absolute epitome of student politics. I mean, she is exactly the type of person you don't want to be in the House of Commons. She was elected, fair enough.
I'll go with that.
You could put a red rosette on anyone in Coventry, and they'd win there. But she is just an embarrassment. She said the other day that Keir Starmer belongs in The Hague. I mean, come on, say what you like about Keir Starmer, but nobody seriously thinks he's capable of being a war criminal.
Right.
These people are a joke. Unfortunately, they will attract support because there is always
you say unfortunately, but hang on a second. You say unfortunately, but it has to be said that I actually believe that there is a sort of place in British politics in this day and age for stronger views on both sides of the political fence. Because if we look at what we've wound up with, the two main parties, namely Conservative and Labour, obviously I appreciate that polls would suggest they're no longer the two main parties, but hear me out here, for many years they have been.
For the last 100 years.
Right? The two main parties of old have become so almost blurred into one. I'm not in the least bit surprised that we're seeing these factions now of breaking away, so more traditional conservative values and more traditional socialist values.
What I want to know, I'm going to ask you, Andy, this is, do you think that the existence of Jeremy Corbyn's party is going to put pressure on Starmer to tack to the left to cover it off? Or does it actually release him to be more Blairite? Because what we've seen since the creation of the Fruit and Nut Party, whatever you want to call it, is actually he's been quite firm about we're not going to say that Palestine is a state. To me, actually, it seems like there's a bit of a weight off his shoulders, that he's opened the spigot and some of that mad leftist stuff has got somewhere to go. He doesn't have to have it in his own. Maybe he's kind of relieved it's there, even though the polling kind of looks like it's a threat to him.
So, I'd say two things. The first is that you can't bargain with these people. The hard left are always going to be saying, we need a wealth tax. Look at the non-dom disaster, which was obviously a Starmer and Reeves policy. We say we're going to end the non-dom regime. Actually, it was originally a Jeremy Hunt thing. That's another story. We're going to end non-dom regime. Guess what? A ton of them leave. Loads of wealth leaves the country. And that is a classic example of a hard left position that might sound lovely, but in reality, it doesn't work. And so what they should do is double down, stay in the centre, which is where we know that every single general election, as long as any of us can remember, was won from the centre. That's why Corbyn lost in 2019. Boris Johnson was closer to the centre than Jeremy Corbyn was. That's why he won. And Jeremy Corbyn is completely unelectable. There is about a 10%, I think, appetite in this country for a hard left Corbyn-style party. I don't think they'll ever get beyond that 10% vote. But it is a problem because it splits the left vote, just as we're seeing on the right with Reform and the Tories.
I think the difference, though, the difference between Reform and Tories is because Reform clearly demonstrates more conventional, more traditional conservative values that actually a lot of this country is built upon. And a lot of people were brought up on as well. So let's not overlook that. You know, that there a lot of what Reform is saying basically appeals to a massive core of the country, which is why the polling would suggest Reform is doing quite well, and Conservatives, as we knew them, has almost disappeared and gone. And I think it's because that the Conservatives saw so many years under Tony Blair of this sort of centrist type of politics. That's where they tried to move across to try and claw their way back. Then they did, obviously, with Cameron and the Clegg coalition, and then obviously Conservative then on. The point is that they've now gone so far centre that they've forgotten traditional Conservative values. So it's curious, actually, the way that politics is working. I'd say hard left, not much of an appetite at all. Hard right, certainly no appetite for. But I'd say that there is an appetite for more traditional Conservative value.
We've definitely moved into a new regime of multi-party politics, which actually makes it a bit more exciting, doesn't it? And one could argue that it's potentially better for democracy because all views are therefore represented by some sort of entity. Thank you, you guys. We're going to take a short break now. Don't go anywhere. Thanks to Andy, thanks to Phil. I'm back after this.
My message to people smugglers is this. I think smashing the gangs is a deterrent. Smash, 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 smash the gangs. Smash the people smuggling gangs. People smuggling puns.
He couldn't even smash an avocado for a piece of toast.
Or the people... What would that... The people...
I think smashing the gangs is a deterrent. Well, it might be if you smashed any, if you found any.
The people smash... The smash...
And he hasn't smashed anything. I mean, literally all he does is he smashes records every sort of couple of weeks, where more and more people come in a period of 24 hours.
Smash the gangs that are running this vile trade.
You're never going to smash the gangs. That's something that basically is impossible. The gangs are like the Hydra. You cut the head off and another two grow.
So I did write to ministers and say that I wasn't convinced that smashing the gangs was the right sort of way of thinking about things.
We will smash the gangs that undermine our security.
Keir Starmer has just tweeted 15 minutes ago. He says, I know you're angry about immigration. I get it. We will smash the people smuggling gangs at source. Maybe I'll just read it all in his accent, shall I?
There is no return to freedom of movement. We have left the EU. I do not accept that prevents us working with other police units here, with prosecutors here, to smash the gangs.
Well, I'm sure the smuggling gangs are absolutely quaking in their boots now. Keir Starmer's on their case. Solving this issue, smashing the gangs, is that the impossible dream, Tom?
It really seems beyond him at the minute, I have to say.
We're going to get the evil people smugglers and we're going to smash them and we're going to put them in jail. That will solve the migrant crisis.
Prime Minister Keir Starmer's promise to smash the gangs has resulted in just 5 convictions. Hurrah for operating small boats.
So what he really wants to say is that this policy of smashing the gangs is a total and utter disaster. There isn't a cat in hell's chance that it's going to work. You just can't say it.
It's crap. That's what he's basically saying.
I know you're angry about immigration. I get it. Mark my words, I will take back control of our borders. That means cutting migration, ending the use of asylum hotels and ramping up our efforts to stop small boat crossings.
It's like a parallel universe, the real world, as told by the impressive David Bolt, and Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves' fantasy world.
We will smash the people smuggling gangs at source.
Across across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, welcome back to the show. 3 hours down, one more to go. I'm having a really good time. It makes setting the alarm at 4 a.m. really enjoyable because I've had your glorious company. I've had a glut of fantastic guests, brilliant news stories to chew over, and, well, quite frankly, it's been 3 hours of Supreme Broadcasting that you don't want to miss. If you've been there from the beginning, well done. Gold star in the post to you. Your certificate, personally signed by me, is going to be on its way to you, metaphorically speaking. It won't be physical. It's just a certificate of your mind. So picture it now. It's designed Word Art 98 with those letters that you could fill in an archway with sort of like a rainbow-coloured graduation to it. That is what your certificate looks like, and there you are. It is yours. If you have only just tuned in, I don't blame you. It is a Saturday after all, but you can go on YouTube or the Talk app, go back to the beginning and enjoy full throttle brilliance at your leisure, whatever you're doing. If you're mowing the lawn because summer's back apparently, then why not have me in your ear as you do it, because it's nicer than the sound of a flymo, some might say. Others might say they're very similar. Anyway, right, let's get on with...
Is it illegal to watch something as you're mowing the lawn? Does that cover driving whilst using a mobile phone?
Do you know what? Probably in this country, in our nanny state, it probably is illegal, which is even more reason to do it.
To do it.
So if you're operating heavy machinery today, if you're driving your car, if you're tending to the sick, make sure I'm in your ear, all right? Just make sure that all of those things are happening simultaneously for the safety of your sanity.
Where did the tending the sick bit come from? It took a turn there.
I don't know. Maybe I should just be like blasted out on tannoys in hospitals around the country. That will help the strikes. Anyway, we are joined by the brilliant Kate Ferguson, editor of The Sun on Sunday, political editor. Look, I gave you a promotion.
I know.
There.
Thanks very much.
You should be.
I won't tell the boss.
Well, you should be the editor because you're the best journalist in Great Britain. As it happens.
That's what my mum says.
Do you know what I love? This week, not only have you come in looking awesome as always, but I've got these massive poster-style printouts of newspaper pages. And I don't know whose printer this is, because this is blimmin' well rendered.
In colour as well.
In colour. And it's honestly almost like photographic. I can almost see every single person in the Tel Aviv crowd.
It is photographic. They're photographs.
Well, I know, but it's just the printing is so good. I thought, like, printers have not been updated since 1975. It's the one bit of technology where it's like, why do I have to keep whacking it on the side and pulling paper out of the in tray?
I think it's just the printers in this building haven't been updated since 1975.
No, but only the finest for use. This is blimmin' amazing. I mean, printing quality top notch. Well done, News UK. Fruit, great printing. We're going places. Anyway, let's go for it, Kate. What are we looking at in The Sun today?
So first off, on our page 2 lead are these health strikes, these NHS strikes. So yesterday was the first day of these 5-day junior doctor strikes. We're not allowed to call them junior doctors anymore. Obviously, they're resident doctors. I just think this is crazy. One, to really get your listeners' blood boiling, because they've had this huge pay rise. Much bigger pay rise than the rest of us have had for years, right? They've had the biggest
30%
pay rise in the public sector.
Yeah, it's about 30% over the last 3 years, isn't it?
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And like that was to solve this issue of strikes, finally clear those backlogs, finally try and get the NHS up and running again. And it came at a ginormous cost. You remember that massive tax rising budget last year, so controversial? It was basically partly to stuff the doctors' mouths.
£22 billion black hole left by the Conservatives. No, it's your pay rises.
It was to stuff their mouths with gold, right, to get the NHS going again. And here they are walking out again. It's 5 days of this. And I just think public support has collapsed for a reason. It feels unjustifiable.
But also
now.
some of the support within the profession has gone as well. When you get people like Lord Robert Winston, I love that man. He's got the best moustache in politics, you know, the fertility guru. He's a Labour peer.
Godfather of IVF.
Godfather of IVF. He's such a lovely man. I adore that man. And he's turned and said, I'm leaving the BMA. And we've had GPs on going, it's disgusting. Why are they doing this? I kind of think when you're in the public sector, right, you know what your salary is going to be. When you train to be a doctor, you can look up online about what you're going to be paid. It's publicly available and you choose to do it. And you know, when you're a youngster in any profession, you work hard, you get paid rubbish, but guess what? By the time you get to consultancy, you got the second home in France, the Jaguar on the gravel driveway, and you're living it large.
I actually think that's so true. The thing is, there's actually very few professions you can go into now where you know that as long as you don't massively mess up, there's progression. You're going to end up earning well. You're going to end up with a good pension. And doctors, I mean, they do earn well over their career. So I just think that there's a reason public support has collapsed. BMA seems to be hijacked by this kind of very militant, far left focus, like in the middle. But a lot of doctors don't support the strike, public don't support the strike. I just think it's outrageous.
They also say, well, we're just trying to get our wages back to 2008 levels. And they don't actually acknowledge that they use a particular measure of inflation, which is considered to be outdated. But the other thing is, even if they were using a more credible measure of inflation, do they not realise that wages in the private sector have been stagnant for about 15 years?
Do they not realise our economy is toast, full stop, and so we've got no money in the national coffers, so we can't pay you. What is alarming, though, is what the Sun headline is, which is that paramedics may join the strike. That terrifies me when we know that ambulance response times, the doldrums, that people, you know, the blues and twos just ain't getting to people. They're not conveying them to hospital in time. Loads of these ambulances are queued up outside hospitals because, you know, people aren't being taken out of hospitals and, you know, into social care. We've heard this all before. I don't know, what did paramedics get in the pay rises? Was it on the nurse level or the doctor level? I don't know.
It's nowhere, I would need to go back and check, but we know, don't we, that paramedics are paid nowhere near what doctors are paid, and they don't have that same salary progression. And we can see here that it's the GMB that organises the paramedics, they've rejected a 3.6% offer. So it's different. It's different to those junior doctors, but it is worrying that these strikes could spread. We don't want to see another summer of mass strikes.
Tell you what I've never understood about this country. When you have people who actually save lives and do important things, nurses, paramedics, we pay them so poorly, and yet people who work in PR, which is a made-up job, that if all PR people disappeared tomorrow, the world would actually be better. It is a nonsense profession.
Yeah, that's
they get paid about 3 times more than people going around trying to save lives.
Yeah, that's the same everywhere. The other thing I would say about this story, I think that the doctors have miscalculated. I think there is a bit of an arrogance where they think, well, we help save lives, people love doctors, people trust doctors, so they're going to side with us over the politicians. And this is the one time, actually, where the public is going, you know what, no, I think Wes Streeting's probably right. I'm with the politicians here. The doctors have this slightly kind of misplaced moral virtue about their place in society. I'm with the politicians.
Yeah.
They have mischaracterised this debate.
I totally agree. Right, Kate, roll up. What are we going for next?
Roll up. Well, if we skip through the Sun to page 7, we have this page lead called Check Out or We're Going to Cut Your Support. This is the announcement by a Home Office minister that illegal migrants who refuse to move from their hotels to cheaper digs face being made homeless under a Home Office crackdown. Now, I think the thing I hadn't realised before they announced this yesterday was that some illegal migrants who have been put up in these hotels are actually refusing to move. So obviously Labour have come in, said they're going to close these, they're going to stop migrants being housed in these hotels. They haven't managed to do that yet, but they're trying to take them out to cut that massive bill. And it turns out that some of them have been staging these kind of refusenic protests and refusing to move. So Home Office have given them this ultimatum: either you move to where we're placing you, or that's it, you're turfed out.
It's so crazy. I mean, this whole system, I cannot ever wrap my head around this at all. I personally prefer, even at Cosmo, I kind of almost prefer the hotels to people going into private accommodation, because we know we haven't got the housing stock, and I worry so much about the security of being able to monitor what people are up to. The more we learn about what asylum seekers are getting up to, I think they can sit in these hotels and they should be sort of militarised and locked and not allowed out, basically. If they're going to go and commit 75% of shoplifting in the West End, and 1 in 100 have serious turned up in front of magistrates with very serious charges. We're also getting more and more stories up and down the country of very deviant sexual behaviour and the risk to women. Putting them in private houses to me is utterly terrifying. But the audacity of these scumbags coming into our country saying, I want a phone, I want full board, I want an e-scooter, I want better Wi-Fi, I want this quick. I mean, for crying out loud.
Well, the other interesting thing about this story, if they've said they're happy to have illegal migrants out on the streets, but they're not happy to have them in detention centres, that goes to show that the only thing they care about is political optics. So they're happy to have these migrants actually just sleeping rough, but they just don't want to have the photos of people in, cages and inverted commas. This is purely political. It's purely about the optics of having people in so-called nasty, illegal
Do you know,
detention.
I would rather like to do, or get you to do it, or someone who's able to do this research. I kind of want to know who are the people who own these hotels, because they're there's been stories on this in the past, some people making millions of pounds from this situation. But I just wonder if there's common denominators when it comes to some of the owners of these hotels, because, there's lots of people, lots of hotel owners who are like, absolutely not, we will never become a migrant hotel. But then there's lots of other people who seem to jump at the opportunity
Many
to
of
make
them
a bubble
non-doms,
too.
as one
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was looking for.
It's like there were those people that made vast amounts of money in PPE in COVID. What you should have done is put all your money into these migrant hotels a few years ago. You become gazillionaires. There's hotels that were on the verge of collapse who now are kind of booming. Their turnover's huge because they're getting block booked. You're talking about 500 rooms booked permanently at top rates. They're
guaranteed.
It's crazy money.
Well, there should be a campaign. They should all be named, they should be shamed, and their hotel brands should be dragged through the mud, because that is nothing short of what they deserve.
Although, some people might say business is business, and if you're running a hotel in the state of our economy where your energy bills are massive, where, paying for staff is really difficult, and not many people are coming to stay anymore in Epping Forest, and you've got this lovely old historic hotel that's about to go bust, and the government says, well, listen, every single room of your hotel can be booked overnight. Why would someone who runs that business go morally, actually no, because I don't agree with the policy?
Because of principle. Because of principle.
Well,
business is business, but principles are principles.
Now, that's... okay, talking about principle.
Good segue.
Good segue. Because both of these stories could be about principle, depending which one you want to go to.
We are on. I'm on the Ross Clark piece, which is
there we go.
Which is this big think piece in our paper about the return of Jeremy Corbyn.
Magic Grandpa, he's back. He's here to sell you marrows and leftist Marxism weirdness.
You may have thought that when he led Labour to their biggest defeat in their history, that he was gone from political leadership forever, but no, he's back. He's launched this new far-left party with his other former Labour MP, Zara Sultana. Now, this is a really interesting piece by Ross Clark, because he says, look, it's easy to scoff at Magic Grandpa. He lost that election so massively. Everyone thought he was...
Still got more than Starmer did, mine, didn't he?
But he's launched his new party, and it's part of this political landscape where we're going from a two-party state, Labour, Tories, and the pendulum swinging between the two, to much more fractured political landscape. Reform way ahead in the polls, the Greens emerging, and now Jezza on the far left. And he can really eat into that Labour vote in key constituencies. He's going to be really trying to piggyback on that political unrest over Gaza. He's going to be targeting seats with a big Muslim population. Seats that have already seen the emergence of sectarian politics within them, and that could be a real headache for Keir Starmer.
I want to get your opinions on this, guys, because part of me is like, good, I'm glad he's back, because first of all, I ain't got no problem with that left-wing vote splintering. Woohoo! Bring it on. But also, I feel a lot more comfortable with soaking up the Muslim vote happening with someone like Corbyn, despite all his, glad-handing members of Hamas and being as radical as he is. I'm actually more comfortable with him than I am with the actual pro-Gaza MPs creating a Muslim-only party, and also more comfortable with him than I ever will be with George Galloway. So I'm sort of like, if it's got to exist, better the devil you know.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, the comparison you do with Galloway. It's there to be made. I think what we saw with George Galloway is him really stirring up kind of nasty sectarian politics. And I think if we see Jeremy Corbyn do the same, then as much as you might imagine kind of alternatives where it could be worse, it's not good when you have kind of communalist politics like that in the UK.
I think Zara Sultana and all of those independent Islamic MPs have stirred up very nasty sectarian politics. And do you not
think that this is sort of, in a way, like I said, I actually feel a bit more comfortable. We had him as leader of the Labour Party. He stood up on glasses and went, oh, Jeremy Corbyn. It was sort of Disney version of left-wingery. And I feel, like I said, more comfortable with that than actually having the Muslim Party of Great Britain emerge.
Yeah. But I mean, I think we'll have to see how that works. But Jeremy Corbyn has spent his entire political career being a bit of a useful idiot, right? Kind of being courted by these people, being the kind of friendly, literally grandpa-ish frontman for a much more poisonous, potentially toxic politics. So I think this could actually be really bad for our politics.
The other thing I would say, don't rule out the formation of an Islamic party just because these guys are on the scene, because there will be Islamic candidates and many Muslims who will say, you know what, why should we vote for the cosplay version of the Muslim party when we can have a real Muslim party? And, you know, the left continuously tries to appease this voting bloc. But the voting bloc will eventually just go, I want the real thing.
I wonder if now, because we're saying this earlier, weren't we, about the fact that, you know, Sir Keir Starmer's come out, and actually this is our next story, segueing nicely in there. Sir Keir Starmer's come out saying, I'm not going to follow France in recognising Palestine. And I wonder if now that's because it's almost like the Labour Party have gone, well, that Muslim vote's gone anyway. They ain't coming back to us. It's done. It's over. We don't need to make great efforts to appease them. If that's the case, might we actually, hopefully, oh my God, please, see this whole concept of a law on Islamophobia, just something they speak about with old Dominic Grieve that never comes to pass? I don't know. Might it be that the spigot has opened a little bit for some of that more toxic politics to get out of Starmer's government? No, says Will.
Well, I think so this story about France yesterday said they're going to independently recognise Palestine as a state. They're going to do that in September, independent of other allies or whatever peace process may or may not be going on. Now, the politics of this is that Keir Starmer is under massive pressure to do the same. I think we've had 1 in 3, maybe more now, of his MPs sign a public letter telling him to do that. And we've had Sarah Champion, who's an influential Labour MP, touring the radio studios, and who's led that letter, touring the radio studios, trying to pile pressure on the PM to do the same. Now, you're right, in the background we have this discussion about, do we need a definition of Islamophobia, which is something that the Labour Party set up in train. And I think there's many senior members in Number 10 and in government ranks that now understand that was a bad idea. And I think it would suit them if that was kind of quietly dropped, because the problem with coming up with a definition like that is, what does that inhibit? There's a lot of fears that will inhibit reporting and interrogation of grooming gangs.
Yeah.
Because they'd hate that, wouldn't they?
Because they fear that, you know, that could, they then fall foul of this Islamophobia definition, depending on what that definition looks like. You know, what is the point of that definition? Does it help public policy, or does it just inhibit it as people are fearful once again of being branded racist?
I think it inhibits it in exactly the way that they want it to inhibit public policy, which is why I think they will crack on with it. The other thing I would say, and again, I'm loath to support Keir Starmer, and I'm not supporting him here, but another read is, if there is one thing this otherwise vacuous bloke believes in, it is international human rights law.
Oh, he loves that.
And I think, you know, there could be a read to say, you know what, he genuinely thinks that, given some of the stuff we've talked about statehood today, Alex, that you can't logically call Palestine a state. There's no way that you can say it satisfies the international legal requirements of statehood. So he could be looking at it from that legalistic perspective.
That's true, actually. That's all. He doesn't have any sort of actual ideology in his head other than international law. Now, I'm just going to read this message before I let you go, Kate, because I think this is quite interesting. Richard in Cambridge says, you're missing the point. Corbyn will get the Muslim votes, then join with Labour if it's a hung vote. Labour are playing a very clever game. Do you think that could be the case?
Well, someone was talking about this earlier in the week. Is it possible? Is it conceivable that in a kind of fractured politics, if there's no majority next time, and if you need a big kind of rainbow coalition, could Keir Starmer do a deal with Jeremy Corbyn? I have to say, I just don't see how that's possible, given Corbyn setting himself up in total opposition to Labour. I'd eat my hat if that happened. I mean, maybe famous last words.
Journalists have said, wasn't it Dan Hodges who said he was going to run naked around Whitehall if Brexit happened? And he still
what happened?
Don't encourage it. We don't want it to happen.
I won't make that promise.
I heard another fascinating little what if is, what if there was a uni-party coalition of Labour and Liberal in the event, Labour and the Conservatives in the event of a hung parliament? They said, quite rightly, that Labour and the Conservatives are probably closer together than Labour is to your party, and the Conservatives now are to Reform. What if in a future world you had a Labour, Conservatives...
A coalition.
These are all the fascinating things that we now have in a more fragmented political environment.
Yeah, multi-parties often lead to coalitions. That is very true. Can I just say, Kate, you're always brilliant. Thank you so much for coming to do it. Let's give her a round of applause. Come on, Will. Yes, the marvellous Kate Ferguson there. Right, we're going to be taking a short break now, but don't go anywhere because there is still 40 more minutes of unbridled brilliance to come. And guess who is going to be joining us after the break is US political commentator Laurie Led, because we're going to talk everything Trump as he touches down in Scotland. You don't want to miss it. Stay with us.
Some breaking news this morning revealed that under the Terrorist Act, 242 people were arrested in the year to June of this year.
That's something you can indulge in as to all the people who aren't going to prison because, well, there's no prison spaces.
So this is a talk exclusive we've been looking at.
I said, you take these cuffs off me and speak to me like a human being rather than a common criminal.
You're just left wondering, does these people who lead us actually hate Britain? Yeah. Do they not love our country and everything that we've stood for?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello and welcome back. Now, as promised, we are going to focus our attentions to the other side of the pond. Well, actually, we're not, because the other side of the pond has come here. In fact, Mr. DJ Trump has touched down in Scotland and already on landing slagged off Europe for letting too many immigrants in. Hear, hear. Fully agree with you. Thank you for pointing that out, leader of the free world. But he's also, it turns out he quite likes our Prime Minister. He's one of the only people, I think, currently in the UK who does. Let's have a listen to what he said about Mr. Starmer.
I like your Prime Minister. He's slightly more liberal than I am, as you've probably heard. But he's a good man. He got a trade deal done. And, they've been working on this deal for 12 years. He got it done. It's a good deal. It's a good deal for the UK. So, no, I'll be seeing him tomorrow, I guess, tomorrow evening.
So there you go. He says he's going to be seeing Starmer tomorrow. I don't think it is. I think that's going to be Monday or something, that they're having a little tete-a-tete. But he likes him. I mean, it's funny, isn't it? That sort of is creeping, obsequious gesture when he pulled out the little invitation and was like, oh. look what I've got for you. You can get in a royal carriage, Mr. Trump. And he's like, I like him now. It was like...
Oh, someone cut that and make it into a meme,
Don't
please.
encourage it. It's going to happen now.
That would be a great meme. Someone out there in internet land, please do that. It is odd, though, isn't it? They're not exactly the types of personalities that you think would gel. I think it is because Stump just likes people who kiss the ring. And so far, Starmer, to his credit, he's recognised that the only way that he can really progress the relationship is if he does kiss the ring, and he's done that. Probably
it's
the
amazing
only thing
when
he's
you
actually...
look at the sort of social media footprints of Lammy and Starmer on Trump in the past, and now they're both there, aren't they? Sort of like, oh, please love me, please talk to me, please have a photo with me touching my palm.
Yeah, it is cringeworthy, isn't it?
But he's actually turned up to open a Scottish golf course, and they're all sort of queuing up. Von der Leyen's coming over, now stay where you are, you mad wench. She's coming over to try and sort out the EU trade deal. Good luck, sunshine.
Yep.
Starmer's running off to meet him. It's, Donald's in the country. Woo-hoo.
Yep.
But actually his point is to come and open his golf course. And me and Trump, not only are we like a Venn diagram of blonde brilliance and right-wingery, not as rich as him and not as orange, but we also share a similar hatred. Let's have a look.
Well, I say two things to Europe. Stop the windmills. You're ruining your countries. I really mean it. It's so sad. You fly over and you see these windmills all over the place, ruining your beautiful fields and valleys and killing your birds. And if they're stuck in the ocean, ruining your oceans. Stop the windmills.
Stop it. Or wimwoms, as I like to call them, as my regular listeners will know.
Yeah.
I think, by the way, that is a Leslieism. My mum uses the word wimwoms, and I don't even know what it means, but I just nicked it off her. Repurposed it.
I like that. I also like former Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott's term for them, which is the dark satanic mills of the modern age.
I mean, they're kind of rubbish, as far as I can tell. When you've got this stuff, this tech, it seems to me that we all pay for them as people who pay energy bills, and they're massive landowners with girt amounts of money are getting even more girt amounts of money to have these things there, even get girt amounts of money when the things aren't working.
Yeah.
And then if they do work, it can overload the grid. When it doesn't work, you need actually the rest of the grid to... It's just the most pointless technology on Earth.
Well, also, bloody idiot Ed Miliband is trying to make it easier now for you to put these things in your backyard. He's trying to change planning regulations, so it is easier now to dump one of these really loud, noisy things in your backyard. Tell you what, if you hate your neighbour, it's a great way to annoy them, but other than that, I don't see the utility.
No, I don't get it at all. And, obviously, as a lover of the Scottish Highlands and his various golf courses, I can imagine the only windmills Trump wants to see in a golf course is those miniature ones in the pitch and putt.
Yeah.
But here he is, over in the United Kingdom, causing quite a stir, as per usual. I think it's going to be a very exciting visit, actually. I think more so than the state visit. I think this one, it's often when things aren't being done formally that a lot of the informal chats happen. I wonder if Starmer fancies himself to do a round of golf.
Yeah.
with a David Lammy as the caddy.
I can't see it, something tells me. Look, the other thing which annoys me, this will be dominated by Gaza and all the Middle East stuff. The sad reality is there are really pressing issues when it comes to the economy of this country, which could be aided by a closer relationship with the United States, and that's going to be all put to the one side because of just the desperation to look statesman-like on the world stage when it comes to Middle Eastern issues. It is not the thing that the UK, or the US for that matter, should be focusing on.
I mean, what I do like about this, though, is Donald Trump has a habit of making quite strident comments that we all want to hear, that we want our leaders to listen to. And by and large, what we've seen from Starmer is he does want to please the Donald, he does want to kiss the ring. So him turning up, and then, of course, we've got J.D. Vance coming on Hollybobs down the Cotswolds, who also said to Europe, you've got to sort out this whole crazy immigration crisis you've got going on. We've done it, and you better do it too. I wonder how much, when it comes to these trade deals, in theory, we've got one now with America, although it isn't really a fully throated trade deal. There's still a lot more to go. And I wonder if he's going to go as far as using the sort of tariffs as a capital, as leverage to saying to Europe, if you don't sort this out, because I know various people have pointed out to Donald Trump the issues with freedom of speech in this country as well. They're very cognizant of the things facing Europe over in the Oval Office. And for them, I think it's the defence of Western civilization. We are the frontier from that. They, of course, are our immigrants of old. They came from our countries, and they're saying if you guys, are allowing your country to be invaded, your demography to radically change, you are going to kill off Western civilization. And I think America's not just saying this as lip service. I think they are really, truly concerned. And I wonder, actually, if the Trump administration will go as far as saying no trade deal or no this, like they've done with Canada. You better sort out the drugs coming over the border. With Mexico, massive tariffs unless you do X, Y, and Z. I wonder if they're going to start using trade negotiations to sort of force upon Europe the necessary social policies that we need.
Well, they're already on the record as saying this, Alex. So I think it was J.D. Vance who uttered the now immortal line, no free trade without free speech. Now, whether or not that is rhetoric is another matter, but they have certainly made rhetorical calls previously to tie economic liberalism with cultural liberalism, and liberalism in the small L sense of the word. And I think that's a good thing. I think that is a good thing. That is how America should be using its soft and hard power.
I wonder if Big Nigel's going to find himself north of Hadrian's Wall to glad hand his buddy. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, that would massively undermine the actions of UK PLC, won't it? I don't think that'd go down well in Starmer's book.
There are a few people who could again answer that question as quickly as you could, Alex. So have a look into it.
Oh, I'll see what I can do. Anyway, we were going to be joined by the lovely Laurie Laird to guide us all of this, but we don't know where she's gone. She's AWOL. She's probably having a little bit of a weekend. I'm not going to accuse her of that. She's a very professional woman. But thank goodness we kept the comfort creature that is William Kingston in the studios here to bail me out of trouble. But anyway, we're going to take a short break now, and we're joined by my other former TV husband, because you're kind of like my new TV husband now. My other former TV husband, Mr. Kevin O'Sullivan, to chew through the day's news of Will and I after this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello and welcome back to the final half hour of the show. Time has flown by, hasn't it, Mr. Kingston?
Time flies when you're having fun.
I know, and what fun we have had. What japes! Now, buckle up, because the japery is about to get even bigger, because I'm joined by my former television husband, Mr. Kevin O'Sullivan. Kev, I think we've got to get rid of that. We keep calling each other my former TV. We're still at it, basically, aren't we?
We're
Kev
not
and
going to
Alex
let
never
Kev
went
and Alex
anywhere.
die. No, absolutely. Yes, we are. We're still very much a TV couple, I think.
I think so indeed. Now, talk to me about a talk exclusive here, which, I mean, this really gets on my nerves. Not a single fine has been issued to Uber Eats, Just Eat, Deliveroo, despite having gazillions of illegals working for them. But small businesses, even when they say, you've got papers, great, we've done all the checks and balances, and then, it turns out that all this stuff is fraudulent, they're being fined 40 grand. Why on earth does this government not drag in the fast food delivery companies to a parliamentary committee and say, get your act together or you're not allowed to operate?
Well, I spoke to a very nice guy last night called Mark Sullivan, who runs a fish and chip shop in Egham. I think it's called the Big Fish and Chip Shop. So go down there. This guy needs some help. Now, he's a typical small businessman. And what happened with him was that a Ghanaian guy turned up in 23 or something like that and gave him all the right papers, a picture of his passport, his national insurance number, proof of his student loan repayments, everything. So he was given all the documentation you're required to receive before you hire a migrant, an immigrant. And it turned out that all those documents were false, but Mark didn't know that. So all of a sudden, one Friday, I think it was, these immigration heavies all charged into his shop, and he was treated or his manager was treated like a criminal. He's been treated like a criminal ever since. And he's saying, look, okay, fair enough, I was conned, but I did my bit. I did all I could. But no, he's been fined £40,000, but it's like a parking ticket. Right. If you pay quickly, you get a slightly reduced rate. So he paid immediately £28,000. He's trying to get that money back because he doesn't think it's fair. I agree with him. He's a decent guy trying to run a small business. And meanwhile, the big gig economy companies, Uber Eats, Just Eat, Deliveroo, they're not required to present any proof that their employees are legit, are legal. They're not required to do it because their employees per se are not employed. So you've got small businesses all over the country being slammed with as much as £60,000 fines, where the big villains have not been fined a penny or had to pay a penny.
It's crazy. Why is it that the gig economy don't have to check someone's right to work? Because that's exactly where these people go and work. They don't come here illegally and do you know what? I'm going to try my luck at working at, the head office of HSBC. They want to do the delivery stuff. That's the whole blimmin' point.
But also, the ultimate villain is the government. That man, that small business owner, was put into that position because of the failed policies of the UK government, and now they're the ones who are having to force him to pay for it. It is so wrong, that story.
Now, you've got another talk exclusive for us, don't you, Kevster?
Yes. What is that?
So I love that. Well prepared. We always
tell me. I've got so many exclusives. Which one do you want?
Oh, he's like the exclusive machine. No, this is about a council box who's been accused of trying to hush up a migrant rape charge. She's escaped any formal investigation. Town hall bosses rule she has no case to answer. Portsmouth City Council's chief exec, Natalie Brahma Pearl, she sounds like she probably wears chunky jewellery and has a perm, was the subject of a formal complaint which alleged she tried to withhold details about a rape suspect living in a taxpayer-funded asylum hotel. Why are these people so desperate to protect rapists? For crying out loud, you're a woman!
This is a real scandal story, and in fairness, Peter Cardwell broke this on Drive Time on Talk last night, and I picked up on it. I parasitically got into the story as well. I'll have some of that, I thought. But seriously, this is absolutely outrageous. It was about a month ago that the Sun newspaper revealed that in Portsmouth, the council stood accused of organising a massive cover-up about the rape of a local woman. The local councillors, local officials were apparently instructed look, by all means say there's been a terrible rape, but don't for God's sake say that the man accused of it, the man charged with it, is living at the local asylum seeker hotel, which, by the way, is called the Royal Beach Hotel in Southsea. There was a big demonstration outside it last night. So people were told, don't tell the public about the asylum seeker angle here, because you know what the public are like. They'll get all annoyed and we'll
How
have
dare
trouble.
the public be annoyed about a woman being raped by a migrant? I mean, come on. I just can't anymore.
So the chief executive was formally accused by a councillor, of organising this cover-up, which, frankly, I'm going to say on air, I think she did. But so the council marked its own homework and has decided that the complaint against our chief executive friend does not, and I'm sort of quoting here, does not meet the threshold required for a formal disciplinary investigation. So they've marked their own homework and they've exonerated themselves.
Why is it that these people constantly get away with stuff that in the private sector you just wouldn't? And why is it always when it comes to rapists or racists, they'd rather call everyone a racist rather than do anything about a rapist? I cannot fathom this, and it makes me so cross.
Well, this is the building powder keg. It's bad enough that these migrants, the asylum seekers all over the country, currently there's about 340 of them waiting for court cases, charged with serious crimes. Something like 30 of them are sex offences, rape, sexual assault. Now, these offences, the sexual offences, this is a tinderbox. When people find out that these people foisted upon them, these young men, mostly young men of sexually active age, about whom we know nothing, they're foisted on communities like Epping and Portsmouth, and then they allegedly go on to commit sex crimes. The local communities, quite rightly, do not like that. We are sick of this. We are sick. Do you know what really infuriates me about this asylum seeker crisis? Is it's so undemocratic. At what point did the British people vote for this?
Yeah.
At what point did we say, oh, please allow in anybody who turns up in a small boat? We never agreed to this.
Exactly. And I tell you what, Kev, I was saying earlier, breakfast is a 4-hour show. I pay a good old thwack of tax. So for the first 2 hours, I've worked hard to buy me own food and pay me own mortgage. The last 2 hours, I'm working so I can let Abdul and Mohammed live in a hotel at my expense, and they probably want to attack me. Fantastic. It really makes me cross.
The other thing which is staggering about those statistics, which are very confronting, is that they are the tip of the iceberg, because for every one of those serious crimes, there are 100 women who have been leered at, who have been wolf whistled, the lower level stuff, which again you do not.
So this is it. So for every woman that's attacked, there's a whole community of women who have to totally change the way they live fundamentally forever. It might be one person who's attacked, but all the women out there then live in fear.
Yeah.
And it's what's in it for us?
Let me tell you something else. There's a growing suggestion that foreign men charged with rape or sexual assault are being registered by the police as no fixed address, no fixed abode. But in fact, their abode is the local asylum seeker hotel. So there's this suggestion that the authorities are institutionally covering up whenever a sex crime is allegedly committed by an asylum seeker.
It's evil.
That's what's going on all over the country, because they know that this is the tinderbox that could set this country up. There are a lot of demonstrations last night outside these hotels. Thank God they were all peaceful. There's a big one planned again tomorrow night in Epping. And it's not long before this is really going to kick off. The government is doing nothing about this, and the people are sick and tired of this ongoing, as Donald Trump quite rightly put it, invasion. Wasn't he brilliant what he said?
Wasn't he brilliant indeed? As are you, Kev. Always love hearing from you. Fantastic stories there. Thank you for hopping on that Zoom and joining us today. And thank you, Will, because we're saying goodbye to you now. Almost 4 hours.
Pleasure. I'm off to the pub.
Before you do that, Carol, Shoreham by Sea, has to say this. Good morning, Alex. Hands off, Will. You've got Kevin as your TV husband. Please leave Will to the rest of us. We absolutely adore him. And so great that he's been on your show most of this morning. Yes, repeat every week. I like the sound of that.
Thank you, Carol. I am single, Carol. Feel free to reach out.
Yeah, like I said, I'm the one who gets to sit by him for 4 hours, so there you are. Anyway, go off and enjoy that rugby. Thank you so much for setting your alarm early and being with us today.
Thank you, Alex.
And,
Thank you, everyone watching and listening.
There he is. The wonderful Will Kingston. Right, after the break, it's time for our Retro Rewind. This is the new thing we're doing on Saturday weekends. We're picking a year and we're going to dig down into all of the fun things that happened in it. That's after this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
All right, then, we're joined in the studio, but that was really loud even for my own ears. So I just shouted so loud then. Blimmin' heck, my mum was telling me to, like, soften my voice yesterday.
You woke me up.
She's got a point. She's got a point. And we're joined in the studio by the wonderful Virgin Radio presenter, Mr. Steve Denyer, because it is time for our Retro Rewind.
We're going to go to the year 1976. One of the reasons is it was my birthday this week, and I was born that year.
Oh, happy birthday
Thank
to
you very much.
Methuselah.
Let's not work out the year, the age, but we will talk about the year. So loads of stuff happened in this year. It's really interesting. We get into politics in a moment and what have you, but the very first Apple computer was made, was put out for sale
76?
in 1976.
Was it though?
Steve Jobs sold his VW van just to get enough money, and the first Apple computer was a circuit board. So it didn't come with a monitor. You had to buy your own keyboard if you wanted to use it. But it was the basis for what was to be the Apple Mac years ago.
That's
and they came up with the same.
76.
Cost $666.
Which back then would have been like a gazillion pounds, I'd imagine.
A few grand. Yeah, and if you got one now, hundreds of thousands. There was only 200 made in 1976. So there you go.
Wow.
It all started back in 76. It's also, I guarantee everyone listening and watching will go, oh yeah, the big drought. The record-breaking summer.
Climate change.
My mum yesterday said, can you imagine? It was so hot day after day after day. It was unbearable. And then you were born. So she had quite a bad summer. But
Poor
literally,
thing.
it was in the 90s, 90 degrees plus, you know, every
Don't
single
do that, because
day.
that's the weird American version of temperature that I
All
can't
right then,
cope
so it was
with.
about 35.
Oh, right, I can work with that.
From June to September,
I
had
love that.
So they brought in a minister for drought, apparently. Yeah, and it was a guy who came in, and as soon as he was given the job,
what was he supposed to do as Minister for Drought? Like chat to the clouds and ask them to rain? Like, what was he doing with
as
that?
soon as he got the job, it started to rain, and everyone thought this is a fix.
Oh, amazing.
His name was Dennis Howe. He was a former Minister for Drought. So it's all people always reference 1976.
Oh, can we just conjure up Dennis Howe as Minister for Stop the Boats? That'd be great. He seems to have the magic touch.
We've got to talk about let's talk about politics, because we had a Prime Minister who quit in this year. And do you remember who I'm talking about?
I wasn't there, if I'm honest with you. It was about 8 years before I popped out.
Yeah, so basically we had, for years and years and years, we had this Prime Minister who quit at the age of 60 because he said, I always plan to quit at 60, and then stuff started to go really badly wrong in this country. We had the winter of discontent, and then Margaret Thatcher, of course, you may have heard of her. She became our Prime Minister in 1979. So we kind of got into this really dodgy period.
This was a really gnarly bit of British history. Kind of like what we're about to relive, frankly speaking. So it's a good job we're talking about. Harold Wilson, of course, was the one who resigned as Prime Minister, and James Callaghan became the new PM.
That was it. So it was kind of very rocky. First ever Ford Fiesta car was sold in this year in 1976. It went on.
Did you ever own a Ford Fiesta?
I didn't, but my best mate did, and he had
someone had
he had a furry dice.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
hey, it's kind of what you did, wasn't it? And they came with cassettes and radios and stuff. People loved it because they could afford it. It would have cost about 14 grand.
I love that. Young tech op who's about 12 years old just asked in my ear, what is a cassette? Oh, you're cute, aren't you?
Isn't he cute?
Yeah, I know.
That's his last shift.
I'm going to put him down for a nap in a minute. Amazing Ford Fiesta. I just, back in the day, cars looked really different, didn't they? There were all sorts of different sizes and different. Now they all look blimmin' the same.
Exactly that. Every car had its own kind of personality,
and
didn't
you could keep those bangers going forever. Have your own spanners, sort them out.
Yeah, if you still got one, they could be worth up to, like 100 grand if it's in good nick. If it's in really good nick, apparently so.
Now, this is my favourite bit, is when we go back and we remember all of the music from a particular era. So what did 1976 offer us in the charts?
So the two big songs, Brotherhood of Man, Save All Your Kisses For Me, and Elton John and Kiki D. The duet.
Don't go back in my heart.
This is my favourite bit because you sing to the bits. And what was your favourite song?
I know, I love this because I didn't know this, but one of my favourite songs ever, when I used to work at another rival channel and I used to cross Hyde Park on my commute by foot, I used to skip across Hyde Park. So I made a playlist of music that you could happily skip to that was really bouncy.
Yeah.
And this was one of my favourites, and it's stuck now as one of my favourite songs of all time, which is Oh What a Night by the Four Seasons. I love it. It's got the beat to that.
That is one of those songs you can listen to now and it doesn't sound old. It doesn't sound like it was from the 70s.
It's in my head right now.
Brotherhood of Man won that song for Eurovision for us that year, and they were often
back when we used to win Eurovision.
Well, it was a record-breaking. They used to have a jury on Eurovision, and we got the most amount of points this year with that record. Everybody loved us. Everybody loved that record, and they were number one.
They
for
probably
6
just felt really
weeks.
sorry for us because our economy was crashed. So maybe we have a good chance of winning Eurovision again when IMF send us that massive charity check. Now, what we also like to do is wrap up by discussing what was in the cinemas that year, 1976. What was on the big screen?
Very, very first Rocky movie. This is where the world learnt of course, Stallone. It was his first film, and he wrote the script. He wrote the script in 3 days. Okay, the film company, well, because he saw a Muhammad Ali fight and he thought, I'm going to create this character. It's all about the underdog, Rocky, and he played the character so well. The film company didn't want him to be in it. They were like, well, you've written this great film, we want to give it to somebody else more famous. But he got it. It won 3 Oscars, his first movie that he wrote in 3 days, and he went on to become, of course, it kind of spawned 8 more films.
Yeah,
Rocky-related
you wrote
films.
the script. That's really interesting. And also on the big screen, we had
Taxi.
Right.
Do you know Robert De Niro became a New York taxi driver, New York cabbie, in order to kind of play this part?
Oh, what, to sort of learn what it was like for the real life,
to
the
drive
lived
around
experience.
real life kind of passengers.
That's proper commitment to the art.
And the you talking to me bit was completely improvised. He came up with that and just thought, actually, I quite like the line. He practiced it in the mirror and then used it. And they said, oh, actually, we quite like that. And of course, it's gone down in history as one of the most famous clips, you know, kind of quotes from any movie ever. So there you go, 1976, boiling hot, Sylvester Stallone, Brotherhood of Man, and a Prime Minister who was fed up.
And the birth of Steve Denyer.
Oh, there we are.
Hey! Thank you ever so much. Woo, Steve Denyer. And look who has joined us. It is Cardi P.
You
who
talking to
definitely
me?
wasn't around.
You talking to me?
Oh, I like what you did there. Definitely not around in 1976. You're far too baby-faced, aren't you?
Well, we were born in the
My
same
love.
year, Alex.
Were you 1983 as well?
Well, 84. Close.
So I was due in 84, but I was so excited I came out on Boxing Day. I saw the wine, you know, poking out of my
unboxed.
Yeah, I saw the wine in the present. I was like, get me out! Apparently my mum was in labour for like from waters breaking to me popping out basically in the car park of the hospital. It was about 12 minutes.
Wow.
I was in a rush.
You certainly were. At least you didn't destroy our Christmas. That's the main thing.
Exactly. I was kind enough to do that. But it is the most rubbish day to have a birthday, I reckon.
Well, it is, because especially when you're a kid, people are just like, oh, I'll just get you a joint present for the both. My nephew's birthday is the 20th of December, and he hates it. He's like, I want 2 separate presents. It's
Even
fine.
I wake up on Boxing Day disappointed that Christmas Day is over. People are like,
Even though it's your
birthday.
birthday.
I'm like, oh God, do we have to? But as you get older, the joint present thing's quite good because you kind of want expensive stuff. As a kid, it's like Barbie dolls, and as you get older, it's like, no, because it's both birthdays, you can lump it together and send me on a nice holiday. Thank you very much. Not that I've ever had that, unfortunately. But there you go.
There's always this year.
And in theory, it's quite a memorable day. There you go, listeners. Boxing Day. Put it in your diary. Alex Phillips' birth, or as I like to call it, Alex Mass.
Alexmas. I like
yes,
it. I like
indeed.
it. Yeah.
Right, now tell us, Cardi P, what are you talking about today? Because you've always got some smacking stories that we don't
well,
cover.
I mean, Kevin's story yesterday, my story yesterday as well. We're talking about Portsmouth. There was a protest there last night. This is the council chief who suppressed free speech, telling the leader, telling one of the councillors not to talk about the fact that an asylum seeker had been charged with rape. Also, why does it take the President of the United States to come to our country to tell us what we know to be true about migration to our Prime Minister?
Yeah.
So we'll be reflecting on Trump in Scotland, of course, as well. The doctors